with doubt. Had nowhere to go. Everything's moving so slow. The time's moving too fast. I hope this feeling don't last. Well, I've been away from myself too long. My body is aching from all my wrongs. And now that I know I'm not that strong, I'll keep slipping on to you. I'll keep slipping until my time is through. I'll keep slipping on to you, yeah, on to you. Well, I've been away from myself too long. My body is aching from all my wrongs. And now that I know I'm not that strong, I'll keep slipping on to you. I'll keep slipping until my time is through. I'll keep slipping on to you, yeah, on to you. I was down and out, so riddled with doubt.
am the devil. I am the Lord Satan from the netherworld, ruler of the damned and eternal king of hell. Even I, the master of deceit, can only stomach so much bullshit from the mainstream media and indie grifters. That's why I tune in to Morning Extra with Uncle Warren, because he eliminates my competition, and also because I know I'm gonna see that motherfucker soon.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got a shooter, baby's got corrosion now, baby's got it.
Yeehaw! You guys hear me? It tells me I have levels, but I've been lied to before. Good morning, everybody. It's Pi Day. Pi R square. No, Pi R round, cake R square. That's an old joke. Hope you enjoy that. Right off the bat, I just want to say hi to Willie. Thank you, Willie. Appreciate it. With the 10 spot there, he says, good morning and welcome back. Did you see the latest Turncoat Don video? Aaron Mate intellectually demolished Rabbi Shmuley on Piers Morgan's Uncensored. Wow. Well, I mean, it is Shmuley. I mean, you don't need you don't need like some Rhodes Scholar in there. Like Shmuley ain't exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer. He's just a hype man. He's a piece of shit hype man, actually. He's probably one of those tunnel Jews. Remember the tunnel Jews? They found in Brooklyn. The tunnel Jews. And they were like scurrying, and they had like all these people in the basement, and they open this wall, and there's like a shitty mattress. I mean, come on, y'all remember that? You remember? Damn, I got a little shadow here. Audio and video, I try to do okay, but lighting, I always just suck at. God. All right, fuck it. Chicken in a bucket. See, now when I move my hand here. All right, we're good. Fuck it. We're good. It's Pi Day 314. If you're not familiar with that thing, it's, so, pi is 3.14 and then whatever the other numbers are. I can only figure pi up to 3 digits. And I'm like, that's enough. I get winded after that. Good morning, everybody. Mariana's here. Hello, Mariana. Good to see you. Rick, taking a smoke break from his smoke job down there in hell, the concierge there. I know your boss, man. Don't take too long, You do have an eternity down there, so I guess, I guess that kind of doesn't make any sense why you'd have to take a limited time. It's good to see you, man. We got Cape Socialist in the house there. Steve Gill. What is that, Steve Gill? Yeah. Sorry about that. Willie here, of course. Thank you, Willie. Appreciate you. Kate, she's here. We got Chuck in the house too. Anybody else? I think there was a few before. We get their usuals coming in. And Ghost Start over here on Rumble. Really weird things going on with the interwebs on this end, at least. I was checking last night. Because, see, I have to set up all this stuff, right? So we do it on YouTube, Rockfin, and Rumble. And on Facebook when it works, right? So we got Facebook to work, apparently. So if you're on Facebook watching, hey, how are you doing? Delicious. But Rockfin, kind of wild. I had heard some people talk about that. Some people were getting their creator accounts taken away from Rockfin. So I looked on there, and I mean, I can still stream on there, but when I look on my page, for the number of people that follow, it says 0. And I'm like, well, I've pissed off some people, but I don't think I've pissed off 3,500 people on Rockfin, maybe. But when you look on the phone, it says, it says they're all there. So, and I'm just glad this shit's working. I'm just glad I'm working. Willie, I know you mentioned something about being sick in the chat. I hope you're feeling better, brother. This time of year is just not good for staying well, right? Allergies start kicking up as the weather gets a little warmer. The weather's a little crazier. Someday, spring. Everybody thinks, some people would say, oh, well, spring, it begins with flowers and love. It's like, no, bitch, it's still snowing. It's still just shit. It'll be 60 one day. I think today's supposed to be 60. I believe so. It'll be like 20 the next, and you just can't stay well. So I had to cancel the secret show over the weekend. Just wasn't feeling good. I think I had a little touch of the flu. So everything's good. Oh, the stream's still there? All right. Thanks, Ed. Appreciate you. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know what the thing is, but if other creators, if you're having problems with that, just let me know. But yeah. So and I was thinking today, I said, we have everybody that comes here regularly gets a wrench, right? Because I never liked that where it's just like a couple people were mods in a chat, right? And because what if those people aren't watching the show that day, right? You don't have any mods. So if everybody's a mod, right? You notice we don't have any trolls in the chat, except the ones we approve of course. But I'm saying like the outsiders, those weirdos that come in and try to disrupt shit. Yeah, that's what I said. The desktop version of Rockfin says you have 0 followers and it won't let me press the follow button. Sounds like a glitch. It probably is. Okay. Thanks for checking that out, Ed. I appreciate that. But I like to have, you watch a show, everybody gets a wrench. So that way, if the trolls are stupid enough to come into our chat, they see all this blue and all these wrenches, they'll think twice about trying to fuck around with stuff in here. So, anyway, I think that's good for now. Let me get all this set up here. How's everybody doing? I hope you're doing good. This Friday, and there's always fuckery afoot. We're back to the regular shows. Last Friday, I just wanted to get back and say hi, maybe do a couple of stories, talk about them a little bit. Think I freaked a couple people out because I had changed up a few things. They were like, what are you doing, man? How come you're not doing the straight news? Why are you doing this commentary bullshit? What are you doing? I'm like, I said, it's fine. We're back to it. We're going to do news. 77 for you, Mariana. Holy shit. I pulled off of Rockfin. They got my money because I premiumed with the combo couch. Oh, yeah. And yeah, don't even, Stivgi. I did. I said it right. Excellent. Stivgi. But yeah, I mean, it's all, I don't care about wrenches and stuff like that. I just like everybody to, I'm just lazy. Cause like Kate, for example, I wanted her to be a mod because she's a sweetheart, but she has links to her shows. And so, if anybody, you've got links for stuff that you want to promote, put it in the chat, it's fine. We're here to help out everybody. Steve G. Well, you know what? It's so tiny. It looks like GIL. So, we would say Steve Gill. All right. Like I said, we've made a few changes, just a little bit, just kind of cutting down the show a little bit. I think I was getting burned out with doing like 30, 40 shows, stories, cause most of them all depressing. And the one thing you don't need is, more depressing news, but here we are, we're doing the thing. 77 down there, expected to be 101. What? In Tejas? Well, that's not surprising. Texas is weird too. Texas has like 4 different weather ecosystems down there. What's up, Prop? Saggy ears. You can't even see my ears. I'm wearing headphones. Because North Texas, they'll get like blizzard out. East Texas is nothing but a swamp. West Texas is a desert, and South Texas is just hell. It's crazy. Tornadoes too. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of, especially up there, in the Panhandle around there. That's part of, Tornado Alley there. Kansas, Oklahoma. You get into parts of Tennessee, North Mississippi, that kind of thing. Okay, well, we've rambled enough, I believe. We're going to do this news thing. Brought to you by Crisco, because we're taking it in the ass. And pardon the old, I have this new dark mode plugin, and some pages get dark and some don't. And that's still a work in progress. So, U.S. proposes new Gaza ceasefire deal amid total Israeli blockade. Wow, is Israel blocking like food and shit to people that they're shooting at? Oh, that's crazy talk. The U.S. has given Israel and Hamas a new proposal for a temporary ceasefire deal for Gaza amid Israel's total blockade on aid and all other goods entering the Strip, according to Axios. The proposal put forward by U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff, who would involve a ceasefire meant to get through Ramadan and Passover, which ends on April 20th. That's interesting day. 420 and Hitler's birthday. And the resumption of aid deliveries into Gaza. Under the proposal, Hamas would release at least 5 live hostages and the remains of 9 deceased hostages on the first day of the ceasefire. During the truce, negotiations on a permanent deal would be held, and if an agreement were reached, Hamas would release the remaining hostages on the last day of the ceasefire. According to Al Jazeera, Hamas spokesman Hazem Qasem, not to be confused with Casey Kasem, back to the countdown, rejected the idea of an alternative ceasefire deal, saying the group is committed to what has already been agreed upon. We already made a deal. And it's like, I have altered the deal. Pray I don't alter it further. Or whatever Darth Vader says. Drink your coffee, folks. Delicious, I guess. Hamas has maintained that it wants the full implementation of the original ceasefire deal that was reached in January, which Israel has violated by imposing the total siege and refusing to enter negotiations on the second phase of the deal, which was supposed to involve an Israeli withdrawal and permanent truce. According to the Axios report, Hamas has yet to respond to the new U.S. proposal. In the meantime, the situation in Gaza is getting worse for the civilians living under the siege. UN spokesman Stefan Dujarric said that aid groups on the ground in Gaza are being forced to ration food and that there would be more dire consequences on the ground as long as the Israeli blockade continues. Our partners report having to reduce food rations to prioritize assistance for as many vulnerable people as possible, Dujarric said. The food security situation could sharply deteriorate unless the flow of aid into Gaza resumes as quickly as possible. Israel has received widespread condemnation for blocking the entry of all goods into Gaza and cutting off electricity from the territory, but the U.S. backed the move, which amounts to the collective punishment of the civilian population. Of course it is, because Trumpy, Captain Zion himself, Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's why I don't go, I just go for straight news. And I also double check it with other sources too, to see if that's, if there's any kind of skew or something like that. Oh, is there, Jim? Good morning, Jim, over there on Rockfin. Yes, there's a glitch with the file. Okay. See, fuckery's always afoot on the internet. And I always think, like, you know what? At one point I was like, you know what? Fuck Rockfin. I mean, we could devote a whole show to what a nightmare trying to, if you donate funds to the show. By the way, if you are on Rockfin and you want to donate, don't donate anymore on Rockfin. Rockfin is a money pit. It'll suck all the money, and we don't get to see any of it because you have to jump through hoops to get the shit, and fuck that shit. We don't want to do that. So, yeah. So, I did something wrong. Okay. Maybe I didn't do something wrong. All right. Oh, I forgot I had that button. Okay. Still kind of, I haven't gotten back used to doing this part of the show yet, so just bear with me. Meanwhile, Mahmoud Khalil will remain detained in Louisiana following a brief court hearing. This was the other day. I think this was Wednesday. Khalil will continue to be detained at an ICE facility in Louisiana following a brief hearing in New York City on Wednesday morning in response to a habeas corpus petition and a request to have him transferred back to New York, where he was arrested. Federal Judge Jesse Furman called for more briefs from Khalil's lawyers and the U.S. government. Trump's attorneys informed the court that they will submit a motion to transfer or dismiss Khalil's habeas corpus petition, as they view New York as an improper venue for the case and do not believe it has any jurisdiction. Yeah, Trump really doesn't like court in New York for some reason. Furman also ordered Khalil to be allowed to communicate with his counsel over the course of the next 2 days as he prepared to meet legal deadlines. Khalil's attorneys told the judge that they have been unable to speak with their client at all. That sounds like it. That sounds like Louisiana jail, that's for sure. We have literally not been able to confer with our client once he was taken off the street of New York and taken 1,000 miles away to Louisiana. One of Khalil's lawyers, Ramzi Qassem, told Furman, "It's hard for us to continue the work the way we would normally," he added. Khalil did not appear in court by video or phone during the hearing, which saw a massive crowd of supporters gather outside. Sheza Abushi Dalal, one of Khalil's attorneys, read a statement from Khalil's pregnant wife. "My husband was kidnapped from our home, and it's shameful that the United States government continues to hold him because he stood for the rights and lives of his people," it read. "I demand the immediate release and return to our family. His disappearance has devastated our lives." Last week, the Department of Homeland Security detained Khalil over his participation in the Gaza solidarity protests at Columbia University's campus last spring. The arrest took place despite the fact that Khalil is a permanent U.S. resident with a current green card. Well, it don't matter under Trump, does it? Or under Biden either, if you think about it. During his arrest, ICE agents informed him that it had been revoked by the U.S. government along with his student visa. The Trump administration celebrated Khalil's detention across social media. "This is the first arrest of many to come," wrote President Trump in a social truth post. "We know there are more students at Columbia and other universities across the country who've engaged in pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, anti-American activity, and the Trump administration will not tolerate it. Many are not students, they're paid agitators." On Monday, Judge Furman temporarily blocked Khalil from being deported and ordered him to remain in the U.S. in order to preserve the court's jurisdiction. An early statement from Secretary of State and also Aquaman stand-in Marco Rubio suggested that Khalil would be prosecuted under anti-terrorism laws for his alleged support of Hamas, but the government has since revealed that it arrested him using a provision from the Immigration and Nationality Act. An alien whose presence or activities in the United States, the Secretary of State has reasonable ground to believe would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States is deportable, reads the provision. Sources with knowledge of the matter told the New York Times that Mr. Rubio's argument is that the United States has a foreign policy of combating anti-Semitism around the world and that it would undermine this policy. You can go away. Nobody called you. And they would undermine this policy objective to tolerate Mr. Khalil's continued presence in the United States. Ironically, as Andrew Silverstein writes in the foreword, the same INA provision was used to target Holocaust survivors suspected of being Soviet agents during the 1950s. How interesting. Yeah, got to tie the Russian angle in there, too. The First Amendment protects the right of the people to criticize the government, its policies, and foreign governments like Israel, period. Immigration attorney Eric Lee told Mondoweiss. The claim that pro-Palestinian speech equates to terrorism is nothing more than a pretext and a lie. There's no lawful basis whatsoever for these actions. Not only does it violate free speech rights on non-citizens, it violates the rights of all U.S. citizens, he continued. The First Amendment not only guarantees the right to speak and guarantees the right to listen. Citizens have the right to listen to the anti-government or pro-Palestinian views of their non-citizen friends, co-workers, and colleagues. Khalil's detention has been condemned by human rights groups, activists, and lawmakers. Khalil's constitutional rights have been violated. He's been denied meaningful access to counsel and any visitation from his family. This is absolutely unacceptable and illegal, reads a letter to Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. You got to know 'em when to hold 'em. Know 'em when to fold 'em, from Representative Rashida Tlaib and 13 other House members. The arrest, detention, and attempted deportation of a prominent Palestinian human rights activist for his constitutionally protected activity that the administration disagrees with is not only patently unlawful, it is a further dangerous step into modern-day McCarthyist repression, or fascism, because we're pretty much there now. The courts must stop this lawlessness before this chilling form of repression expands further, said Center for Constitutional Rights Legal Director Bayer Azmi in a statement. But both the defense and prosecution will submit a joint letter to Judge Furman on Friday explaining their further plans for arguments in the case. Yes, because you have to protect these rights, folks. If you don't, they'll come for all of us. You know what's still saying? Well, they came for the communists and I said nothing. And they came for these people and I said nothing. Then finally it was just me and I was like, fuck, what'd I do? I know that's not the saying. I'm just kind of paraphrasing. That's pretty much it, though. But his story continues as now he's filing suit against Columbia University. So... detained activist Khalil sues to bar Columbia from sharing disciplinary records. There he is right there. Detained pro-Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil asked a federal court on Thursday to block Columbia University from sharing student disciplinary records from campus protests with a Republican-led U.S. House of Representatives committee. The witch hunt, folks. Because we don't have bigger problems in our country, roads falling apart, people starving to death, $10, carton of eggs. Separately, Khalil's lawyers have asked a federal judge to release him from immigration detention in Louisiana, arguing that Donald Trump's administration targeted him for arrest and deportation because of his advocacy in violation of the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment protections for freedom of speech. Khalil's case has become a flashpoint for Trump's pledge to deport some activists who participated in the wave of protests on U.S. college campuses against Israel's military assault on Gaza following the October 2023 attack by Hamas. Trump's administration has said pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses, including Columbia, have included support for Hamas and anti-Semitic harassment of Jewish students. Just like every piece of concrete, every little person, every little child in Palestine is Hamas. Now everybody's anti-Semitic for just stating their opinions. The administration last week said it canceled grants and contracts worth about $400 million to Columbia because of what it describes as anti-Semitic harassment on and near the school's campus. Near the school's campus? What the fuck are they going to do about near the school's campus? It's not their campus. Student protest organizers have said criticism of Israel and its actions is being wrongly conflated with anti-Semitism. And we all know why. In a lawsuit filed on Thursday in Manhattan federal court, Khalil and seven Columbia students sought to prevent the university from complying with a request from the House Education and Workforce Committee for student disciplinary records stemming from protest-related incidents. The other 7 students remained anonymous in the lawsuit. The plaintiffs said the committee's request violated the First Amendment and their privacy rights under the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, a U.S. law that governs how universities handle student information. Entities like the university feel pressured to cooperate with the government in its efforts to chill and punish protected speech, the lawsuits stated. Well, also the fact that Trump's threatening to withhold $400 million, that probably had something to do with it too. because money talks and bullshit walks. Colombia declined to comment. A spokesperson for the committee did not immediately respond to a request for comment. A Syrian native of Palestinian descent, the 30-year-old Khalil entered the U.S. on a student visa in 2022 to pursue a public administration degree at Columbia. He became a prominent member of Colombia's protest movement, married his American citizen wife in 2023, and last year secured lawful permanent residency, making him a green card holder. Mouse, I swear to God, you motherfucker. Demonstrators on the streets of New York City, rights groups and Democratic lawmakers have called Khalil's arrest political repression by the Trump administration. At least 150 protesters poured into the lobby of Trump Tower. We'll tell you more about that in a little bit. Khalil is separately challenging the legality of his arrest by federal immigration agents outside his university residence in Upper Manhattan. Khalil has not been charged with a crime, and then this is all the other information you already know about. So yeah, as I said, there was protesting at Trump Tower in New York. I've actually been in Trump Tower before. When I worked IT. I went in there, and it's kind of a mid building, if you ask me. I don't know. They put up all this fake gold shit, to make it look all. It looks trash. It looks like a fucking casino. I ain't even lying. That is a straight up fucking casino. Jewish Americans and allies occupy Trump Tower, demanding release of Khalil. Yeah, there you go, Rick. Moral of the story: fuck Columbia. Yeah, I mean, it's a Ivy League school anyway. Fuck that shit. They have the broadcasting school there, but it's like, you don't need a broadcasting school. Just learn from journalists. If you're gonna be a journalist, learn from other fucking journalists. Don't go to fucking school. Just know how to write, know how to tell the fucking truth, and know how to sniff out bullshit. That's all you need. That's all you need. So, nearly a year and a half after the advocacy group Jewish Voice for Peace began leading nationwide demonstrations against Israel's U.S.-backed assault on Gaza, hundreds of organizers and supporters of the group risked arrest yesterday as they assembled in the lobby of Trump Tower in New York City, demanding the release of Columbia University graduate Mahmoud Khalil. 300 Jews and friends in Trump Tower because we know what happens when an autocratic regime starts taking away our rights and scapegoating, and we will not be silent, said Sonia Meyerson-Knox, communications director for Jewish Voice for Peace, JVP. Yeah, you know me. That other P, it's not so simple. Come for one, face us all. The latter phrase was emblazoned on banners that were displayed by campaigners who chanted "Never again for anyone, never again is now," and "Free Mahmoud, free them all." And I think we got a little video here. Maybe we can do this.
Jewish protesters are getting dragged out of Trump Tower by their arms and their legs.
And there's the cucks there, the NYPD. You may know them from previous fuckeries.
Jewish protesters are getting dragged out of Trump Tower by their arms and their legs.
All right. Well, this goes on for another
for
30
protesting.
seconds. You get the gist. NYPD officers began arresting participants in the sit-in early in the afternoon. Jane Hirschman, a Jewish New York resident whose grandfather and uncle were abducted by the Nazis in Germany as Adolf Hitler rose to power, said Khalil's detention is further proof that we are on the brink of a full takeover by an authoritarian regime. Zionist. Zionist. Oh, excuse me. Oh, man, these colds. These fucking Zionists. I mean, these colds. I wish you were whiskey. I love you, coffee. But I wish you were whiskey. As Jews of conscience, we know our history and we know where this leads. This is what fascists do as they cement control. This moment requires all people of conscience to take bold action to resist state violence and repression. Free Mahmoud now. Actors Morgan Spector, Deborah Winger, and Arliss Howard were in attendance at the sit-in. All right, Deborah Winger. Just love lift us up where we belong. She was an Officer and a Gentleman. That's a movie, folks. It's rather old. Along with writer and artist Molly Crabapple and New York City Council member Alexis Aviles. Khalil was abducted by plainclothes ICE agents last Saturday night as he was returning home to his Columbia-owned apartment with his wife, who was 8 months pregnant. Good job, ICE. You took a man away from his pregnant wife. That's the fucking shit right there. He was a graduate student at the university until this past December and took a central organizing role in student-led protests and negotiations against Colombia's investment in companies that profit from Israel's apartheid policies in Gaza, including the bombardment began in October 2023 in retaliation for the Hamas-led attack. Khalil, a U.S. resident and citizen of Algeria, was detained under the State Department's Catch and Revoke program, with the Trump administration revoking his green card and threatening to deport him. Administration officials have admitted that they are not accusing Khalil of breaking any laws by participating in Palestinian solidarity protests, but they said he's viewed as adversarial to the foreign policy and national security interests of the United States of America. Guess what, motherfucker? So is most of America. Hate to tell you. Can't take away my green card because my shit's not green. You don't think green? I got my cash money. What? I don't know where that went. After a hearing Wednesday, a federal judge is considering. Yeah, we already talked about that. So, all right. Yeah. So this guy, Khalil, I hadn't really been paying attention to this too much because I've been trying to stay out of the fuckery and I'm trying to heal my nerves. But this is going to keep happening. You know, and basically they're trying to frighten these people, you know, shut the fuck up or we're going to kick you out, right? We're going to kick you out of the country, or worse, you're going to end up in a Louisiana jail, you know? Ashkenazis are from what is now Russia, who immigrated west. Netanyahu is Polish and a secular atheist. Okay, all right. Yeah, Netanyahu isn't his real last name, and he's not Jewish, but he's a Zionist, of course. Yeah, he's I don't know. I think his name is like, you know, Murray Fuckface or something like that. I don't know what his fucking name is, but I'm sure Fuckface is somewhere in there. Surrounding this deal at Columbia University is a little bit of information here from our friends over there at Mint Press News. You may know those guys. Professor at the center of Columbia University deportation scandal is a former Israeli spy. Oh, looky, I got a cookie from a Zionist. The professor at the center of the Columbia University deportation scandal is a former Israeli intelligence officer, Mint Press News can reveal. Khalil, a recent graduate of the University School of International and Public Affairs, was abducted last Saturday, as we told you. From his role Khalil's dean, Dr. Karen Yari Milo, head of the School of International and Public Affairs, is a former Israeli military intelligence officer and official at Israel's mission to the United Nations. Yari Milo played a significant role in drumming up public concern about a supposed wave of intolerable anti-Semitism sweeping over the campus. Oh man! No! Oh, sorry. I haven't had weed in a while, so when you don't, here we go. Thereby laying the groundwork for the extensive crackdown on civil liberties that has followed the protests. Whoa. Okay. So before entering academia, Dr. Yari Milo served as an officer and an intelligence analyst with the Israeli Defense Forces, or as we know them as the IDF, or the cocksucking baby killers. Given that she was recruited from the intelligence services because of her ability to speak Arabic fluently, wink, her job likely entailed surveilling the Arab population. After leaving the world of intelligence, she worked for Israel's permanent mission to the United Nations in New York. While there, she met and married her husband, Israel's official UN spokesperson. Although she is now an academic, she has never left the world of international security, marking the subject her area of expertise. She's made a point of trying to lift women's voices in the field. Yeah, right. One of these was the then U.S. Director of National Security, Avril Haines, whom she spoke with in 2023. But even though Khalil was a student in her school, she had nothing to say about his arrest. Interesting. Indeed, rather than speak out on the issue as activists have demanded, she instead chose this week to invite Naftali Bennett, Prime Minister of Israel from 2021 to 2022, to speak at Columbia. Because, you know, the more Zionists, the better. Students protesting Tuesday's events were condemned by university authorities for harassing Yari Milo. Oh! Hey, your shoes untied. You fucking anti-Semitic piece of shit. I was just saying your shoes. What are you saying? Jews can't tie their shoes? I don't. You get it. You know what I'm talking. So Columbia was the epicenter of a massive protest movement across university campuses nationwide last year. It's estimated that at least 8% of all American college students participated in demonstrations denouncing the genocidal attack on Gaza and calling on educational institutions to divest from Israel. The response was equally vast in its scale. Well over 3,000 protesters were arrested, including faculty members themselves. The nationwide movement began at Columbia on April 17th when a modest Gaza solidarity encampment was established. That's how it starts. That's how the Occupy Wall Street started. Just a few people showed up, and then it started growing. Protesters were shocked when University President Manoj Shafiq immediately called in the NYPD. The first time the university had allowed police to suppress dissent on campus since the famous 1968 demonstrations against the Vietnam War. Khalil was among the leaders of the movement. The Syrian-born Palestinian refugee was willing to speak calmly and cogently to the press about the protests' goals. A permanent resident of the U.S., he was abducted by ICE on Saturday. ICE proudly apprehended and detained Khalil, a radical foreign pro-Hamas student on the campus of Columbia University. This is the first arrest of many to come. Okay, that's what was talking that shithead Trump said. Khalil's 8-month pregnant wife was initially told that he had been taken to a facility in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Yikes. I'd rather take Louisiana. In fact, he had been moved halfway across the country to a center in Chanda, Louisiana. Journalist Pablo Manriquez of Migrant Insider explained that ICE often goes immigration judge shopping by putting detainees in detention centers under jurisdictions of courts that very rarely decide in favor of migrants. Isn't that special? It's why all judges need to be elected and not appointed by people. The high-profile attempt to deport the holder of a green card because of political speech criticizing a foreign government has left many civil rights lawyers deeply worried. Alec, that guy, for example, stated that I've never seen a more clear-cut First Amendment violation or of a more flagrant government declaration of intent to violate black-letter law. The government does not claim he committed a crime, just that he had held views that the government doesn't like about Israel. Bone chilling. Bone chilling is right. Karakatsanis. That's an unfortunate name. Just call him Bill or Bob. Columbia's billionaire pro-Israel backers. Here we go. Let's get into the meat and the juicies. Much of Columbia's funding comes from donations from billionaire benefactors, but those gifts come with strings attached. This became apparent in the wake of the protest movement as many pro-Israel Palestine patrons demanded the university take action. With all this free speech, they're telling the truth about us. Go get them, coppers! You go get them! Go get them! This became apparent in the wake of the protest movement as many pro-Israel patrons demanded the universities take action. Manufacturing magnate Robert Kraft For example, he's the owner of the New England Patriots, by the way, publicly announced he was cutting his alma mater off from his lavish funding over its failure to effectively suppress the demonstrations. Because fuck the NFL. Hedge fund manager Leon Cooperman did the same, demanding that Columbia's crazy kids have to be controlled. Those wild kids speaking truth about fascism and shit. These kids eventually also included 61-year-old Jordanian professor Joseph Massad, whose views on the Middle East Cooperman found intolerable and called for his firing. Soviet-born oligarch Len Blavatnik, meanwhile, urged police to hold the prosecutors to account. See, it's a class war, folks. It's a class war. Money versus no money. Between them, Kraft, Cooperman, and Blavatnik are believed to have donated nearly $100 million to Columbia, giving them considerable influence over the political direction of the universities. You know, you wouldn't have this kind of shit if, you know, you had free college, you know, because then they wouldn't need donations. They'd be taken care of. You know, there were also voices from within the university clamoring for the violent suppression of the student movement. The violent suppression of the student movement. Assistant professor of business management Shai Davidai, for example, denounced the protesters as Nazis. Oh, that's funny. And terrorists. And a little projection there. And called for the National Guard to be set up upon the encampment, obliquely referencing the Kent State University massacre while doing so. Davidai, an Israeli American, served in the IDF, shocking, and has publicly expressed his pride in doing so. How many babies did you kill, Bob? Given its most recent edition, it appears unlikely that the School of International and Public Affairs, or SIPA, will moderate its pro-Israel positions. In January, the school announced that Jacob Liu would join the faculty. Liu had just left his job as the U.S. ambassador to Israel under the Biden administration, a role in which he facilitated American complicity in genocide, supplying Israel with weapons and providing it with diplomatic support of its efforts. Longtime readers of Mid-Press News will be less surprised than many to hear that Israeli military intelligence officials hold such important positions in American public life. Remember when we were talking about Hydra the other day? If we're going to make a Marvel reference? It's fucking Hydra, man. Zionists are fucking Hydra, man. And fucking BB's Red Skull. Previous Mint Press investigations have uncovered giant networks of former Israeli spies working in top jobs in big tech and social media companies, including Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Amazon. Even TikTok, often labeled a Chinese spying app, has hired former Israeli spies to run its affairs. And in October, they revealed that former Israeli spooks are writing America's news with multiple former agents working at top U.S. outlets, including CNN, Axios, and the New York Times. I know you're shocked. Please, just bear with me. Perhaps then the fact that the dean of the very school at the center of a worldwide media storm is a former Israeli military intelligence officer should not be such a shock. But it remains a stark reminder of the level of extraordinary institutional bias in favor of Israel displayed across the United States. Yep, so there you have it. Good old Mint Press News. We don't really feature them that often because they do a lot of long-form stuff, and we kind of like to get the nuts and bolts. But sometimes you need a little context, too, in there. Tell you up. You know, come meet the new boss, same as the old boss. We knew Trump was going to be worse on Israel, too. I mean, that's not a shock. But, you know, that's why you call balls and strikes on all these people, man. You have to, like, Biden was fucking around and doing fucked up shit too. Now Trump's doing it too. You know, and you got to tell their little cult members, though, no, your daddy is no good. All right. Mint is spicy and cool at the same time. Ha 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 ha. Yes, excellent. As dangerous as it is to criticize Israel, today the bravest people in America will criticize apartheid Israel. That's right. No, yeah. prop. That we knew that was bullshit too. But like I said, they're going after people that they think they can intimidate, right? These people that could, because like you and me, you know, we don't have green cards, you know, so all of us who are natural born citizens, but they're going to come after us eventually too, because they want to shut this shit down. It's too many people are learning the truth about what the fuck these Zionists are all about, right? Too many people. But you would say, well, why don't a lot of these people stand up? It's like, well, a lot of them are fucking scared. You know, they're afraid to jeopardize what they were trapped into, right? Family, job, you know, oh, my job pays my insurance. I can't fuck around with my job. That kind of thing. As if there wasn't enough fuckery going on with all this stuff. Now you got Hamas and Fatah. Those people, they're getting into it too. So threatening Palestinian unity, Hamas and Fatah bicker over who has direct talks with the U.S. This is from the New Arab. Not the old Arab, but the New Arab. What up, kid? Look at me throwing up deuces, son. You know it. As the crises facing the Palestinian people intensify with existential challenges on the ground and in politics, the intransigence of the Israeli occupation and its refusal to end the war leave little room for hope, yet ignoring the catastrophe unfolding before them, Hamas and Fatah seem determined to deepen their divide, right? It's just like William Wallace, right? In Braveheart. All he had he said, unite the clans. And they were like sacking English towns. And then they started going into England and sacking towns. But then these fuckers were like, yeah, we'll just cut a deal with the king. And then they sold out William Wallace and that was it. I mean, there was more to it, but you know what I'm saying. It's the same thing. You got to have unity, folks. This past Tuesday, the Palestinian Authority's presidency criticized Hamas for opening direct channels of communication with international parties, including the U.S., in negotiations not authorized by national institutions and bypassed Arab and Palestinian consensus. So like I said, you have the Palestinian Authority, which is kind of like the people, but then you have the resistance too. You have Hamas, and they're like, yeah, you know, because usually the officials are party to it in one way or another. In a press statement, Nabil Abu Rudaina, the Palestinian presidency's spokesperson, described these acts by Hamas as a serious violation of the Palestinian national consensus and threaten to undermine Palestinian political unity. This revelation comes at a very sensitive time following the Emergency Arab Summit in Cairo, which was a golden opportunity to unify Arab positions and affirm support for the Palestinian cause, particularly regarding Gaza's reconstruction and preventing the displacement of its population, he said. On March 5th, the Trump administration said it held talks with Hamas over the return of U.S. captives still held in the Gaza Strip. They were led by U.S. Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs Adam Boehler, who we got a little story about him later, and came as a surprise given that Washington has designated Hamas as a terrorist group since 1997. But Fatah, which dominates the Palestinian Authority, quickly condemned Hamas's direct engagement with the U.S. as attempting to secure political gains at the expense of Palestinian rights. These meetings do not represent the Palestinian people and fail to reflect the national consensus that rejects any negotiations outside the framework of the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, famously headed at one point by Yasser Arafat. Fatah declared in its press statement. Fatah also accused some Hamas leaders, especially those residing outside Gaza, of trying to impose a new political reality that served their own organizational interests, while the people of Gaza continue to suffer under siege and destruction. Fatah warned that any agreements reached outside the national framework would lack legitimacy, asserting that the Palestinian people would reject any concessions that jeopardized their rights. Munzer al-Hayek, a senior Fatah official based in Ramallah, told the New Arab that any talks with the U.S. should happen within a united Palestinian framework that includes all political groups, not through separate deals that serve narrow interests. Such a controversial approach between Hamas and the U.S. goes against national unity, Al-Hayek argued, warning that it could harm Palestinian unity. Engaging with the U.S. without a broad Palestinian agreement could weaken our position and allow Israel to exploit international or internal divisions, he added, accusing Hamas of trying to gain political advantages from Washington. For its part, Hamas rejected the Palestinian presidency and Fatah's accusations of collaboration with foreign powers, calling the allegations unacceptable. Or the nice way of saying, that's bullshit. Abdul Hakim al-Hanini, a senior Hamas official, released a statement to the press criticizing the PA for making such allegations while it continues security coordinations with Israel. Basically saying, that's fine for you to say all that shit when you're, sucking Bibi's dick. The Palestinian Authority must stop its security coordination with the occupation before accusing us of collaboration. Mushra al-Masri, a Gaza-based senior Hamas official, told TNA, that holding, that's the new Arab, not tits and ass. Come on, get your minds out of the gutter, people. That holding direct negotiations with the U.S. aims to bring stability to the region, end the Israeli genocidal war on Gaza, and stop the Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people in general. And what they fail to realize is that the Hamas, they're either being naive or they're either planning something else because they know what a big fucking Zionist Trump is. So, just putting it out there. We held negotiations with the U.S. because we know it has its own power on the Israeli enemy. Ooh. Basically saying, we held negotiations with the U.S. because Israel's their bitch. We've not ignored our people's interests or even the other Palestinian factions. Our main goal is ending the Israeli war in Gaza, so Hamas is open to negotiate over the issue of the dual U.S.-Israeli captives in Gaza. Meanwhile, on the ground in Gaza, battered by Israel's genocidal war, Palestinians are frustrated about the return to tit-for-tat between Hamas and Fatah. Or Fatah. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Phoebe does have a dick. He's got small cashew. You're so dirty, Mr. Willie. You're so dirty. This division will kill us more than Israel, he added sarcastically, but he ain't wrong. The Israeli army had killed Abu Ras's son, and he currently lives in a makeshift tent near the rubble of his house. However, he still hopes that the Palestinian political movements will unite. We need a single leadership. We don't have time to waste. We must stand united, he insisted. I've lived under Israeli occupation all my life, and now I see a new generation impacted by the same political conflicts between these two movements. I live in a tent, suffering during the cold in the winter and the heat in the summer, and neither of the political movements have been able to save us from Israeli bombing and death. Kind of sounds like America, doesn't it? Sleeping under bridges that might collapse on you, and these people are like, well, you know that orange man bed. Or, they just scoop you up, and God knows where you and your shit goes when they scoop you up. So Zainab al-Nakhala, an elderly woman from Rafah in South Gaza, told TNA, what are they fighting over? What do they want to rule? Israel has destroyed everything Palestinian in Gaza. Yeah. It's like you're fighting over literal rubble. Israel doesn't differentiate between Hamas and Fatah. We live together under the same oppression, but Hamas and Fatah are different. They only see each other as threats, said Mohammed al-Safadi, a young man from Gaza City. Yeah, it's the whole divide and conquer thing. What is happening now in the Palestinian arena is the result of the absence of a clear strategy, with the two movements preoccupied with settling political scores at a time when the Palestinian cause is experiencing its most dangerous movements, Palestinian political analyst Tariq al-Hajj told The New Arab. Israel is benefiting from this division, strengthening its international position while weakening the unified Palestinian stance, he added, sharing fears that these differences could fragment international efforts to rebuild Gaza after the massive destruction caused by Israel's genocidal war. Political bickering at this sensitive stage could lead to the marginalization of the Palestinian cause in international forums, which serves Israel's interests since it seeks to dismantle Palestinian consensus and impose a new reality on the ground, noted Mustafa Ibrahim, a Gaza-based political analyst. He also warned that negotiations with foreign parties, particularly the U.S., could be a misstep by Hamas. This is not the time to negotiate political quotas between the movements. Israel does not stop killing and destroying us, and we are living through a profound humanitarian crisis. This division must end because Israel is not affected by it. We are the ones paying the price. And isn't that how it always is, right? It's always like that shit. You know, you hear all these people, these talky people, these political people, but it's the people who suffer. Meanwhile, Gulf states linked to Israeli businesses on UN settlements blacklist. Linked to us, yeah. And then look at Jared Kushner. He's back. Look at that little face of his. Doesn't it look like he's wearing a mask? Kind of looks like it. What's this shit here? I don't know. I don't get in people's medical shit. An investment firm headed by Jared Kushner and backed by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE is the largest shareholder in an Israeli company, which in turn holds shares in businesses accused by the UN of operating in illegal settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories. Affinity Partners has received several $billion in funding from the Gulf States Sovereign Wealth Fund since it was launched by Kushner, U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law, and former Middle East advisor in 2021. In January, just weeks after securing further funding from the Qatari Investment Authority, which used to be the Chicago Transit Authority, which became Chicago. And then they just started doing just love songs, and it was like, it just really kind of lost it, like in the 80s and 90s. Although Peter Cetera is pretty good. I still like him. And an Abu Dhabi-based investment firm, Affinity, completed the purchase of a near 10% stake in Phoenix Financial. Phoenix, formerly known as Phoenix Holdings, is an Israeli financial services group that offers insurance and asset management services and holds shares in other Israeli companies in its own name and through a subsidiary, Phoenix Investment House, or PIH, or P. An investigation by Middle East Eye has established that these include 11 public companies and one private company currently named in a database of businesses with links to Israeli settlements in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the occupied Syrian Golan Heights, compiled by the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, or OCHR. These names, man. The businesses include banks and companies involved in telecommunications, transport, energy, engineering, and retail. According to Tel Aviv Stock Exchange data reviewed by me, or the Middle East Eye, on March 12th, Phoenix's total holdings in the 11 public companies are currently valued at around $4.5 billion. In a statement to Middle East Eye, Affinity said, Affinity is proud to be the largest shareholder of Phoenix, one of the best performing and well-regarded Israeli financial institutions. Affinity's investors are passive, meaning they have no role in Affinity's or Phoenix's operations. At the time of writing, Phoenix's share price was up more than 4% on Thursday as the company announced its 2024 results, including a comprehensive income of 2.087 billion Israeli shekels, or about $500 million American. Commenting on the results, Phoenix Chief Executive Eyal Ben Simon described the acquisition of shares in the company by international investors as a significant vote of confidence in Phoenix and the Israeli economy. Ben Simon said, "We are pleased that the group's results, leading position, and the business opportunity it represents support continued investment by prominent international investors." Middle East Eye has approached Phoenix for comment. Kushner, who's considered to be close to Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, was a key architect during Trump's first term of the so-called Abraham Accords, which established diplomatic ties between Israel and several Arab states, including the UAE. He has spoken openly of his support for and desire to invest in Israel, describing Affinity last year as long-term bullish on the country and his hopes for a future normalization deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Affinity agreed to a deal last July to buy an initial 4.95% stake in Phoenix for around 470 million Israeli shekels, 130 million American, with options to double its stake for the same price. Approval by the Capital Market Authority, Israel's market regulator. Hold on a second. Oh boy. Love spring. Spring. That purchase was completed on January 20th with the increase in Phoenix's share price since Affinity's initial investment, releasing the firm a current profit on paper of around $191 million. I'm not going to, nobody gives a fuck about shekels, according to Tel Aviv Stock Exchange data. Commenting in January on Affinity's investment in Phoenix, Kushner said the deal was a decision rooted in my belief in Israel's resiliency. Yeah, take that money away from Israel, that U.S. money away from Israel. See how resilient those motherfuckers are. And described Affinity's partners as some of the most sophisticated investors from around the region. But Middle East Eye's investigation raises questions as to whether the Gulf states are now indirectly facilitating or profiting from settlement-linked businesses, even as Palestinians in the West Bank face an escalating military assault that has displaced tens of thousands of people and a surge in settler attacks. Pardon me. The ICJ ruled last July that Israel's presence and measures in the West Bank, which it has occupied since 1967, were unlawful and should end as soon as possible. But the following month, Israel attacked Jenin, Turkarm, and Tubas from land and air in a large-scale operation. Then in January, Israel launched a new major assault on Jenin and Turkarm, which is ongoing and the longest in 2 decades. With around 40,000 people displaced in the past 7 weeks, UN officials have warned that the facts are being created on the ground that align with Israel's vision to annex the West Bank. Of course it is. Of course those facts are being created to align with that. You ever get that cough and you're like, man, if I just cough really hard, it's just everything will come out, but it never does. This coffee isn't helping, I guess, but it sure as fuck ain't hurting. Organizations monitoring companies which operate in settlements said it was not surprising that an investor of Phoenix's size had stakes in companies accused of complicity in settlement expansion. Wherever the investment of Gulf states in Israel's occupation, particularly those which have not signed normalization deals, is a new element and stands in contrast to the public stances each state has taken against Israeli activities in the West Bank. Last October, weeks before the QIA's investment in Affinity, Qatar's ruler Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani said Israel had deliberately chosen to expand its aggression in the occupied West Bank to implement pre-existing plans because it sees that the space is available for that. Israel, he said, was exploiting the opportunity of the international community's inaction to implement dangerous settlement plans in the West Bank. Exactly. No one's going to stop them. They're all Zionist cucks. A month later, Saudi's foreign minister said that calls by Israel's far right to annex the West Bank undermines peace efforts, including the two-state solution, encourages war, fuels extremism, and threatens security and stability in the region. In January, the Emirati Ministry of Foreign Affairs strongly condemned and denounced Israel's attack on Jenin, stressing the need for an end to illegal practices that undermine the two-state solution. Al-Haq, the Ramallah-based Palestinian human rights organization, urged the states to refrain from normalization projects and to exercise extreme due diligence when it comes to their business investments to ensure that they are not complicit in the ongoing genocide and dispossession of the Palestinian people. Last year, Kushner's business ties to the Gulf states through Affinity attracted the scrutiny of members of the U.S. Senate's Committee on Finance over concerns that their payments of tens of millions of dollars to the firm in management fees were an attempt by Gulf states to buy political influence and circumvent foreign agent registration laws. Kushner, who holds no position in the current Trump administration, has denied any conflict of interest between his business affairs and political and familial connections, describing calls by some members of the committee for an investigation as silly political stunts. See, here's a trick to propaganda. When we get to the propaganda watch, we'll have more treats for you. But when you hear people say, "Oh, that's nonsense," or "That's silly," it ain't silly. Shit's real. Speaking to a podcast in December, Kushner said Affinity had preemptively tried to avoid any conflicts by approaching investors about the possibility of them injecting more capital last February, when the outcome of Trump's bid to return to the White House was up in the air. In a briefing provided to the committee last July, hey, Denver, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you. And CBC voter, too. Who else we got in here? Fingerman. Good to see you, bud. All right. We got everybody? All right, good. Back to the countdown. Details of which were cited by the committee in related letters and documents. Affinity said that Saudi Arabia's public investment fund had committed to providing it with $2 billion in funds between 2021 and 2026. QIA and an unnamed Emirati sovereign wealth fund were among a number of other investors who committed a further $1 billion, according to the information published by the committee. In December, it was reported that Affinity had raised a further $1.5 billion from QIA and Lunate, an investment fund which is backed by Abu Dhabi's sovereign wealth fund, ADQ, and overseen by Emirati National Security Advisor Tanoun bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the brother of Emirati President Mohammed bin Zayed. Andreas Krieg, an associate professor at King's College London's Defense Studies Department and a strategic risk consultant, told Middle East Eye that investing in Affinity has offered a legal way for Gulf countries to put money into the wider Trump family network at a time when U.S. foreign and security policy is for sale to the highest bidder. Sure as fuck is. In a statement to Middle East Eye, Affinity said, partisan politics aside, Affinity Partners is an SEC-registered investment firm that has always acted appropriately, and any suggestion to the contrary is false or silly. We are fortunate to have the support of some of the world's most sophisticated investors and work hard on their behalf every day. Middle East Eye has contacted the PIF, the QIA, and Lunate for comment, but none has responded at the time of publication. The UN's Human Rights Council asked Ocher in 2016 with creating, or tasked Ocher in 2016 with creating a database of businesses involved in activities in illegal Israeli settlements as a resource to help states take action to prevent companies from committing or contributing to gross human rights abuses of Palestinians. The list is supposed to be updated annually, but the first iteration, which named 112 businesses, was not published until 2020. 15 companies were removed and none added when the list was last amended in 2023. Last year, Ocher issued a call for input ahead of the next update of the list, but the database is not on the agenda at the current Human Rights Council session in Geneva, which started earlier this month and runs until April 4th. Oh, yeah, it runs till April 4th, the anniversary of MLK's assassination. An Ocher spokesperson told Middle East Eye that the office was currently assessing about 850 submissions relating to more than 650 companies, and that an updated database was expected to be presented at the next HRC section in September. That's Human Rights Council, not Hillary Rodham Clinton. Al-Haq told MEE it hoped the next iteration would result in a significant expansion of the list, but said the database was only scratching the surface on the number of corporations that are deeply complicit in war crimes and crimes against humanity. Kind of like the Jeffrey Epstein list. It's kind of the same thing. The database does not include specific details about the businesses it names beyond identifying which of the 10 categories of listed activities they are accused of involvement in. Most of the companies linked to Phoenix are accused of involvement in one or more of the provision of services and utilities to settlements, the provision of banking and financial activities, or the use of natural resources such as water or land for business purposes. The businesses listed in the Ochre database in which Phoenix is invested are as follows. In financial, Phoenix is a significant shareholder in Israel Discount Bank with a 7.65% stake, Bank Leumi 7.39%, and Hapolim Bank 7.35%, according to Tel Aviv Stock Exchange data. According to the WHO Profits, an Israeli research center which collects information about companies operating in occupied territories, all three banks have helped construction companies involved in settlement building. Israel Discount Bank and Hapolim Bank have also supported settlement councils, while Hapolim Bank has promoted and sponsored tours of the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Syrian Golan in cooperation with settler groups, according to WHO Profits. Telecoms. Phoenix also holds substantial stakes in Cellcom, 6.49%, and Partner Communications at 8.22%. According to WHO Profits, both companies have erected scores of mobile phone masts in occupied territories and have licenses from Israel's Ministry of Communications to provide telecom services to settlements. Construction. Electra has 6.68%. An engineering and construction company has been involved in projects on occupied land, including the Jerusalem Light Railway, tunnels linking Jerusalem and the West Bank, and wastewater and sewage treatment facilities. Shapir Engineering and Industry at 8.15% operates a quarry and concrete factories in the West Bank and has also been involved in construction on occupied land. You see a theme here? Energy. Paz Retail and Energy, formerly known as Paz Oil, 6.77%, runs petrol stations or gas stations in settlements and the occupied West Bank. In retail, you got ZMH Hammerman, 9.92% stake, which owns property in the West Bank, including shopping centers. Schufersel, 8%, operates supermarkets and other stores in settlements. And Delta Galil, at 5.9%, is a clothing manufacturer with stores in settlements. Transport. In 2022, Phoenix was reported by Israel's Globes newspaper to have bought a 14% stake in Meyer Cars and Trucks, a private company that is also on the Ochre list. WHO Profits says it has provided vehicles to Israel's defense ministry and runs bus routes between settlements through a subsidiary. Phoenix also owns 3.88% of shares in Elbit Systems, Israel's largest weapon manufacturer. Elbit is not in the UN database, but has been accused by pro-Palestinian campaign groups of complicity in Israel's illegal occupation and alleged war crimes against Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza. Middle East Eye has contacted all the companies named in the Ochre database to ask for comment. Noam Perry, strategic research coordinator for the U.S.-based American Friends Services Committee, or AFSIS, which tracks corporate complicity in state violence, told Middle East Eye that it would be virtually impossible for an international investor in the Israeli company like Phoenix to avoid exposure to settlement business activities. Israeli settlements are integrated into the local economy, and Israeli law defines excluding them as an illegal form of discrimination, Perry said. Therefore, it would be impossible for a company like Phoenix to avoid such holdings. The same would be true for all large investors coming into the Israeli market. Yeah. So there you have that as, like I said, it goes back to Hydra, these tentacles that just reach into everything. Oh, yeah, record-breaking high of 79 degrees forecasted. That's crazy. What is this? Denver, Khalil, the Palestinian Columbia University graduate detained by U.S. immigrant, worked for the British government on its flagship soft power policy. Interesting. Pretty sure somebody's going to do a deep dive into that pretty soon. Don't trust like anybody completely to make sure you. I know you want to, but keep yourself safe. And if that's not bad enough, I can't hit the buttons. UN finds Israel using sexual violence to dominate, destroy the Palestinian people. This is from the Libertarian Institute. Kyle Anzalone, our buddy over there, antiwarnews.com or antiwar.com. Be sure to check both of them. I think the Libertarian Institute is also doing some sort of fundraiser now. So they're trying to, they did this last year. They're trying to get $60,000. So I think they're about halfway there. You want to help them out, that's great. But, you do you, boo. A report published by the UN Human Rights Council found that Israeli security forces had engaged in systemic sexual and reproductive violence. Oh my God, reproductive violence against Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. The evidence collected by the commission reveals a deplorable increase in sexual and gender-based violence, said Commissioner Chair Navi Pillay. There's no escape from the collusion that Israel has employed sexual and gender-based violence against Palestinians to terrorize them and perpetrate a system of oppression that undermines their right to self-determination. The report states the commission concludes that there has been a large increase in sexual and gender-based crimes perpetrated against Palestinians by members of the ISF since October 7th, 2023. It added that the ISF intended to retaliate and punish them collectively for the attacks carried out by Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups on October 7th. The commission concluded that the abusive acts were so prevalent that they were now a de facto part of the ISF standard operating procedures toward Palestinians. The commission concludes that these and other forms of sexualized torture, including rape and violence targeting the genitals, are committed with either explicit orders or an implicit encouragement by the top civilian and military leadership, the UN body continued. The authors of the report argued that the purpose of the sexual humiliation is to psychologically dominate detainees. The way in which these often sexual acts are committed, including their filming, photographing, and dissemination online, shows that forced public stripping and nudity, as well as sexualized torture and ill treatment, are part of the persecutory I can't speak today. Persecutory attack. I'm not used to talking this much in the last few weeks, so leave me alone. Are part of the attack against men and boys committed to punish, humiliate, and intimidate Palestinian men and boys into subjugation. They continue the frequency, prevalence, and severity of sexual and gender-based crimes perpetrated across the occupied Palestinian territory, leads the commission to conclude that sexual and gender-based violence is increasingly used as a method of war by Israel to destabilize, dominate, oppress, and destroy the Palestinian people. Yeah, well, they're trying to dehumanize them, verbally and now sexually, too. Other UN reports have found that Israeli soldiers use sexual humiliation, beating of genitals, and rape against their Palestinian captives. Most of the abuses go unpunished, creating a culture of impunity. The exculpatory statements and actions by Israeli leaders and the lack of effectiveness shown by the military justice system to prosecute cases and convict perpetrators send a clear message to members of the ISF that they can continue committing such acts without fear of accountability, Pillay said. The UN report released on Wednesday explains that Israel has systematically shut down the maternity and reproductive centers in Gaza. Sexual and reproductive health care facilities have been systematically destroyed across Gaza, including maternity hospitals and maternity wards of hospitals. And Gaza's main in vitro fertility clinic, it said. Israeli authorities deliberately destroyed such healthcare facilities, rendering them non-functional. That's Kyle Anzalone. Handsome man. Look at that handsome man. He kind of looks like that meme, with the Russian guy. He's got the big ass jaw and shit. Anyway, you don't need to see that. That's not part of the show. as we say, as Syria is now taken over by Cool and the gang, Israel is continuing their fuckery there. Israeli DM occupation of southern Syria will continue for unlimited time, aka forever. This is from antiwar.com. Jason Ditz on the story here. When Israel invaded Syria in December, it announced the intention to remain at Mount Hermon along the UN Disengagement Observer Force, the UNDOF, region of the Syrian side of the border through 2025. It appears to have been just the start, as Israel has taken more Syrian territory since then, and Defense Minister Israel Katz is now saying the occupation will be for an unlimited time. Everything else is a limited time, especially if it's good. Israel has declared all of southern Syria to be a no-go area for Syrian long-range forces and has a zone Syrian troops aren't allowed in their own fucking country that stretches through much of Rif Damashq government, as well as the Kunitra Dara and the western part of Suwada governance. Katz says Israel is prepared to keep its own military in that entire area to ensure its declarations are followed. Katz's comments aren't the only indication that this is a more or less permanent occupation they envision. The Israeli army has reportedly ordered to construct more and more outposts inside occupied Syria with a goal of keeping Syrian forces at least 65 kilometers from the border between Syria and the already occupied Golan Heights, which is also Syrian territory under international law. Israel was setting up outposts in the UNDOF region fairly early during the invasion, but the 65-kilometer line takes it well beyond that. The army is also reportedly ordered to improve the infrastructure in Druze villages in the occupied area, which would mostly be in the Suwaida governorate. This is hardly something that they'd be doing if this was a brief occupation. Israel appears to be keen to try to sway the loyalty of Syria's Druze minority toward their side, with reports from Foreign Minister Gideon Saar that they have delivered 10,000 humanitarian aid packages to the Druze so far, with most of them sent to areas inside Suwaida. Israel will also reportedly allow Druze who live inside the occupied Syrian territory to enter and work inside Israel starting next Sunday. There's also a plan for around 100 senior figures of the Syrian Druze community to visit a shrine in the occupied Golan Heights and meet with a spiritual leader. It's likely they're visiting a shrine in Majdal Shams, the largest Druze town in the region, which has a substantial number of important sites for the community. Earlier this week, it was announced that a deal was reached between the Druze and the Syrian government to integrate Suwaida governorate into state institutions, in keeping with the new ruling Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, in control of Syria. I always accidentally say that whole name, and I'm like, fuck! HTS, just say HTS! In control of Syria. Under the deal, 300 HTS forces will be deployed to Suwaida, and some 600 Druze police that formerly worked under the Assad government will be reinstated to their positions. Earlier this month, there were brief clashes between the HTS and Druze gunmen in Jeramana in Rif Damashq. The fighting was at a checkpoint in town, and one person was reported killed and 9 wounded. Beyond that, there's been little fighting between the HTS and the Druze since the HTS seized power in December. Though the deal to integrate Suwaida into state institutions also suggests relatively good terms between the HTS and the Druze, recent HTS massacres of religious minorities in the Northwest may be informing some of the concern on the Druze side, and Israel may be hoping to use that to drive a wedge between them, because that's what they do best, divide and conquer. It's unclear how Israel will react to the Suwaida deal, which has 300 HTS forces deployed to the government. If that includes areas within the demilitarized area imposed by Israel, which includes everything west of the city of Suwaida, they might use that as a pretext for more action inside Syria. Back-to-back dits. How you like that? Syria placed under Islamist rule for 5 years by new interim constitution. In December, the Sunni Islamist HTS took over Syria in an internationally backed offensive. HTS was formerly known as Jabhat al-Nusra and al-Qaeda in Iraq, or AQI, before that. Yesterday, their leader, Ahmed al-Shara, signed a new declaration of an interim constitution. The actual constitution doesn't appear to be totally written at this point, interestingly enough, despite being made law of the land. We'll just make it up as we go along. There's a 7-person committee appointed by the HTS to draft it, with the stipulation that the country will be placed under Islamist rule for the next 5 years ahead of another future final constitution going into effect. The declaration places certain conditions on the constitution, including a requirement that the president of Syria must always be a Muslim and that Islamic law will be the main source of jurisprudence, because that works well. You want some secular law in your shit there, don't you? Oh wait, no, you don't. The council is made up of Shura, the interim interior defense ministers, and the head of the intelligence agency, along with 2 legal experts. Abdulhamid al-Awak, a constitutional law expert and professor in Turkey, was installed as one of the members of the Constitutional Committee. He said that the Constitution, despite being Islamist in nature, will enshrine freedom of the press and freedom of expression. For how long? Or is that just on paper? It will also reportedly retain terms for the previous Assad-era constitution, guaranteeing women the right to work and participate in the economy. Again, we'll see. Previous comments from the HTS-dominated committee members are that Syria will have no system of federalism and that power will be consolidated under the national government. Federalism is seen as an option to protect religious and ethnic minorities within Syria. Last week's massacre of Alawites by the HTS in northwest Syria had put a lot of the country's religious minorities on edge. A new explicitly Islamist constitution is probably only going to add to those concerns, and the HTS goal of unity under central government control looks a long way off. Yeah. So that's what's happening there. Hang on a second. Oh my. When you're 6'4", and you're kind of in a cramped spot, it's kind of, there we go. That's the stuff right there. How we done? Israel is telling you they are murdering Syrians without telling you they are murdering Syrians. Yeah, exactly. Yep, that's right there. Yeah, that's my that's my Keaton impression from Do This. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Can't argue with that. Yeah, that's right. So, according to the famous Teddy Z, Kiev won't cede territory, wants strong U.S. response if Russia rejects ceasefire. The old ceasefire there. I thought Trump was going to, he said, I'm going to end it in 24 hours. I can end it in 24 hours. That's why you don't listen, you watch. It's not the words, it's the works. President Volodymyr Zelensky explained his understanding of the ceasefire proposed by Ukrainian and American officials this week, saying his country would not make any territorial concessions. Additionally, Kiev expects strong steps from President Donald Trump should Moscow reject the plan. Discussing the ceasefire proposal on Wednesday, Zelensky said, "We are fighting for our independence. Therefore, we will not recognize any occupied territories as Russia's." Adding, "Our people have fought for this. Our heroes died. How many injured, how many passed? No one will forget about it. This is the most important red line. We will not let anyone forget about this crime against Ukraine." There you go. There's your daily dose of Zelensky. Hard on the throat. Zelensky's refusal to give up territory makes it unlikely the Kremlin will agree to the ceasefire, as Russian officials insist the 5 Ukrainian provinces annexed by Moscow will never be returned to Kiev. Additionally, Russia said it is seeking a permanent end to the conflict, not a short-term truce. Even if the ceasefire had multiple points that crossed Russia's red line, Zelensky said he expects Trump to sanction Russia and send more arms to Ukraine. On Tuesday, he said, I understand that we could count on strong steps. I don't know the details yet, but we are talking about sanctions and about strengthening Ukraine. I don't know who said that. Or maybe Trump said that. I don't know who said that. Trump has previously threatened severe sanctions and tariffs on Russia if Putin did not agree to a ceasefire. They're already sanctioning him. Zelensky repeated on Wednesday that he still expected Trump to take those steps if the proposal is rejected. If the Russians are not ready for a ceasefire, we do hope that the American side will demonstrate exactly what it said, he stated. And then he did a rail of coke. The White House has led Western officials in saying that it is now on Putin to accept the peace plan. It's up to Russia now, Trump said. Our people are going to Russia right now as we speak, and hopefully we can get a ceasefire from Russia. Yeah, don't count on it, Bob. While Zelensky's reluctance to make key concessions suggests that Moscow will reject the proposal, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Putin will wait to hear the details from the U.S. officials before responding. Yesterday, both Secretary of State Mark Rubio and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz mentioned that they would provide us with a detailed information about the essence of the conversation that took place in Jeddah through various channels. We need to receive this information first. Meanwhile, Putin signals he's open to ceasefire. He didn't say he was going to do it, but he says he's going to do it. He may think about it. Here from Dave DeCamp over there at antiwar.com. Russian President Vladimir Putin has signaled that he's open to a ceasefire in Ukraine, but that he has questions about the 30-day U.S.-Ukraine proposal that need to be discussed. The idea itself is the right one, and we definitely support it, Putin said, according to the New York Times. But there are questions that we need to discuss, and I think that we need to talk them through with our American colleagues and partners. Oh, Putin, you're so funny. You think you're going to talk with these people, and you're going to get some, like they're going to talk sense. The Russian leader listed potential conditions for a 30-day truce, including a guarantee that Ukraine wouldn't be supplied with more weapons. We also want guarantees that during the 30-day ceasefire, Ukraine will not conduct mobilization, will not train soldiers, and will not receive weapons, he said, according to RT. But as we know, that's still going to happen. Because if they're going to let Israel blockade Gaza and the West Bank or whatever, what makes you think they're going to keep their word here? They didn't keep their word in 2014. Putin also questioned who would monitor the ceasefire. Who will determine where and who has violated a potential ceasefire agreement along a 2,000-kilometer line? Who will attribute blame for any violations? These are all questions that require thorough examination from both sides. The Russian leader said any long-term peace deal needs to address the root causes of the war. He made the comments as U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff arrived in Russia to discuss the proposal. Yuri Ushakov, a Kremlin official, said Witkoff would be holding a closed-door meeting with Putin. Ushakov also said the U.S.-Ukraine proposal would only give Ukraine a chance to regroup, and it would need to be adjusted to meet Moscow's interests. As for the 30-day temporary ceasefire, what is it about? There's nothing in it for us. It will only provide the Ukrainians with the opportunity to regroup and gain strength to continue doing what they're doing, he said, according to Russia's TASS news agency. Exactly. That's, yeah, he ain't stupid. He knows what's going on. I swear to God, I'm not doing cocaine, folks, but my nose is just like, oh my goodness, this dry weather. Man, or maybe I should do cocaine. Maybe that'll help. These are some hasty actions that do not benefit a long-term settlement. We'll need to work on it, to think it over so that it reflects our position too. It reflects only Ukraine's stance at this point, he said. Yushkov said that Russia wanted a long-term peace deal and that the official Russian position on the U.S.-Ukraine proposal would be formulated by Putin. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov made similar comments opposing the idea of a temporary ceasefire. pointing to the Minsk Accords, which were first reached in 2014 for a truce in Ukraine's eastern Donbass region. Lavrov also mentioned the Istanbul Agreement, referring to a peace deal that was on the table in March and April of 2022, which was discouraged by the U.S. and its allies. I'm talking about the Minsk Accords, the deal that was discarded after the 2014 coup, and the Istanbul agreements. All of those include a ceasefire, and every time it turned out that they had lied to us. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, we won't get fooled again. Dun, dun, dun. Ow. A joint statement between the U.S. and Ukraine that was released after talks in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday said that Ukraine had expressed readiness to accept the U.S. proposal to enact an immediate interim 30-day ceasefire, which can be extended by mutual agreement of the parties and which is subject to acceptance and concurrent implementation by the Russian Federation. The statement also said that the U.S. had resumed military aid and intelligence sharing for Ukraine, which was briefly paused. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said that if Russia doesn't accept the 30-day proposal, the U.S. would then know who the impediment to peace is, signaling he wants the proxy war will continue as soon as usual if the deal isn't reached. Yeah. So, man, I'm real short. Okay, let's try this again. Someday I'll be at a regular height. So that's the deal. That's what they're saying. It's like, oh, you won't take this shitty deal? Why won't you take this shitty deal? We've only lied to you like 2 or 3 times before. Why don't you take this shitty deal? I mean, say what you want about Russia. You know, do they kill people in the middle of the night? You know, sure, maybe, I don't know, but they ain't stupid. Or at least Putin is not stupid, at least not anymore. Maybe he's not as trusting as he used to be. We'll see. Meanwhile, Azerbaijan and Armenia agreed on a draft peace agreement. That's their flag there. Come on, let's go down here. So, Azerbaijan and Armenia have agreed on a draft text of a peace agreement. Azeri Foreign Minister Seyhun Baramov announced on Thursday. Baramov said that Armenia has accepted Azerbaijan's proposals regarding the last remaining disputed points in the deal, though he did not specify what those were. At the next stage, Baku's expectations are clear. Armenia must amend its constitution, which still contains territorial claims to Azerbaijan, the minister said on the sidelines of the XII Global Baku Forum, according to a report by Azerbaijani website Hakin. The Armenian Foreign Ministry also confirmed in a statement that Yerevan had reached a draft agreement with Baku and is ready to begin consultations on when and where to sign it. 3 separate officials familiar with the deal confirmed that both sides have approved the text of the agreement. However, they noted that some critical issues remain unresolved beyond the scope of the agreement itself. One regional official told Middle East Eye that Armenia and Azerbaijan have yet to fully resolve their dispute over the European Union Monitoring Mission, or UMA, in Armenia, which tracks ceasefire violations along the front line. The Western official told Middle East Eye that Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan is open to not renewing UMA's mandate, which is set to expire in February 2027. The official added that Baku, in principle, does not want the presence of any foreign monitors, including Russian forces. The regional official also highlighted 2 other key outstanding issues: the dissolution of the OSCE Minsk Group and the amendment of the Armenian constitution. Baku wants to formally dissolve the Minsk Group that operates under the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, or OSCE. Azeri officials have previously accused the OSCE of being biased against them. Azerbaijan also insists that Armenia revise the preamble of its constitution, which contains language that could be interpreted as making territorial claims on Azeri sovereignty. The timing of these constitutional changes remains a matter of discussion. A Western official noted that there are questions about whether Baku would accept Yerevan signing the peace deal first and then proceeding with the constitutional amendments afterwards. Additionally, officials confirmed that Armenia and Azerbaijan have agreed to withdraw legal cases filed against each other in international judicial organizations. It seems more like a breakthrough in the right direction rather than a done deal, the regional official said. It's not immediately clear whether the two countries have reached an agreement on the establishment of the so-called Zangezur corridor. That used to be my stripper name back in the day. A proposed transport route that would connect Azerbaijan to its enclave, Nakhchivan, through Armenian territory. If established, this corridor would become a major regional trade route. The Second Karabakh War, fought in the fall of 2020, resulted in a decisive Azeri victory. The conflict ended with a Russian-brokered ceasefire agreement on November 10th in 2020, which saw Azerbaijan regain significant territories in and around the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh region that had been under Armenian control since the early 1990s. I'm going to tell you right now, the time off was very good. I did not miss trying to butcher these fucking names. I did not miss that at all. Or maybe I did, because I'm a glutton for punishment. Since then, tensions between the two sides have remained high. In September 2023, Azerbaijan launched a military operation that resulted in the full reintegration of Nagorno-Karabakh into Azeri control, a territory recognized as part of Azerbaijan by the United Nations. In the aftermath, tens of thousands of ethnic Armenians fled the region, fearing prosecution. Efforts toward a lasting peace agreement have since continued with multiple rounds of negotiations, including Western and Russian mediators. However, issues such as border demarcation, the status of Armenian enclaves, and transport routes like the Zangezur corridor have complicated the process. The Western official added that some Azeri troop movements near the front still concern observers. So there you go. There's your rando peace agreement of the day, brought to you by Schlitz. It probably gives you the shits. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, at least 25 bodies retrieved from Pakistan train siege. Security forces said they freed more than 340 train passengers in a 2-day rescue operation that ended late on Wednesday after a separatist group bombed a remote railway track in mountainous southwest Balochistan and stormed a train with around 450 passengers on board. The assault was claimed by the Balak Liberation Army, the BLA, one of a number of separatist groups that accuse outsiders of plundering natural resources in Balochistan near the borders with Afghanistan and Iran. Death tolls have varied, with the military saying in an official statement that 21 innocent hostages were killed by the militants as well as 4 soldiers in the rescue operation. A railway official in Balochistan said the bodies of 25 people were transported by train away from the hostage site to the nearby town of Mak on Thursday morning. Deceased were identified as 19 military passengers, 1 police, and 1 railway official, while 4 bodies are yet to be identified, the official who spoke on condition of anonymity told AFP. A senior local military official overseeing operations confirmed the details. An army official speaking to AFP on condition of anonymity earlier put the military toll at 28, including 27 off-duty soldiers taken hostage. Passengers who escaped from the siege said after walking for hours through rugged mountains to reach safety that they saw people being shot dead by militants. The first funerals were expected to take place yesterday evening after the Muslim majority nation broke its daily fast for the holy month Ramadan. Prime Minister Mohammed Shehbaz Sharif arrived in the provincial capital of Quetta to meet with security officials, his office said. The Prime Minister expressed grief and sorrow over the martyrdom, blah, 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 whatever they say, you know. What does it say? Our condolences or thoughts and prayers. There we go. The BLA released a video of an explosion on the track, followed by dozens of militants emerging from hiding places in the mountains to attack the train. Attacks by separatist groups have soared in the past few years, mostly targeting security forces and ethnic groups from outside the province. Mohammed Naveed, who managed to escape, told AFP, "They asked us to come out of the train one by one. They separated women and asked them to leave. They also spared elders. They asked us to come outside, saying we will not be harmed. When around 185 people came outside, they chose people and shot them down." Babar Masih, a 38-year-old Christian laborer, told AFP on Wednesday he and his family walked for hours through rugged mountains to reach a train that could take them to a makeshift hospital on a railway platform. "Our women pleaded with them and they spared us," he said. "They told us to get out and not look back as we ran. I noticed many others running alongside us." Security forces have been battling a decades-long insurgency in impoverished Balochistan? Yeah, I guess that's how you'd say Balochistan. But last year saw a surge in violence in the province compared with 2023, according to the Independent Center for Research and Security Studies. Whew! Let's take a break here. Yeah, you know, you have lung issues or like any kind of chest cold or something like that. When you try to talk for a long time, you're like, but you know, still have coffee. You're so naughty, but you're so nice. You get to be on Santa's list twice. Yeah. All right. Back to the countdown. We talked about sexual violence and abuse for the Palestinians at the hands of the Israelis. Of course, that's been an ongoing thing in Sudan as well. UNICEF says 12 million at risk of sexual violence as Sudan crisis deepens. Get down here eventually. The war in Sudan has exposed more than 12 million people to pervasive sexual violence that is being used to terrify the entire population. Seeing Palestine, according to the UN Children's Fund, or UNICEF. As the war nears the 2-year mark, UNICEF Executive Director Catherine Russell told a UN Security Council meeting on Thursday that the number of women and girls, and increasingly men and boys, at risk of rape and sexual assault has increased by 80% over the last year. Referencing data analyzed by UNICEF, Russell said that 221 cases of rape against children were reported in 2024 in 9 states, with 16 of these cases involving children under the age of 5 and 4 involving babies under the age of 1. Jesus fucking Christ. "The data only gives us a glimpse into what we know is a far larger, more devastating crisis," said Russell. "Survivors and their families are often unwilling or unable to come forward due to challenges in accessing services, fear of social stigma, or the risk of retribution," which is very common in any sort of sexual abuse cases. The victim tends to keep it to themselves rather than risk, people getting in their business or some sort of the victim worrying about retaliation is such a mindfuck. Much of the meeting focused on the suffering of the 16 million children needing humanitarian assistance this year as a result of the continuing war between the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, and the Sudanese Armed Forces, the SAF. The fighting erupted in April 2023, and it has killed tens of thousands, uprooted more than 12 million people, and created the world's biggest humanitarian crisis. Russell cited more than 900 grave violations against children reported between June and December last year, with victims killed or maimed in 80% of cases, mainly in the states of Khartoum, Al Jazeera, and Darfur. Hey, Max, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you. It's a Willie Bragg show. I took over Willie's show the other day. Remember on his birthday when he had to go take a shit or something? Didn't you ever go take a shit? No, you had to go do something else, Willie. I'm not trying to put your business out there. That was a fun show. The meeting took place as the SAF accused the RSF of targeting civilians in the besieged North Darfur state capital of El Fasher, killing 5 children under the age of 6 and wounding 4 women on Wednesday. Fighting in El Fasher has intensified in recent months as the RSF tries to consolidate its hold on Darfur after many victories in central Sudan. The city is the only one of 5 state capitals in the vast Darfur region that is not under paramilitary control. Christopher Lockyer, the Secretary General of Doctors Without Borders, accused the warring sides of not only failing to protect citizens, but also actively compounding their suffering. The war in Sudan is a war on people, a reality that grows more evident by the day, Lockyer said. Lockyer also criticized the UN Security Council's repeated calls for a ceasefire is hollow. This council's failure to translate its own demands into action feels like abandonment to violence and deprivation, he said. While statements are being made in this chamber, civilians remain unseen, unprotected, bombed, besieged, raped, displaced, deprived of food, of medical care, of dignity, he added. The ongoing violence has led MSF, that's Doctors Without Borders, last month to suspend all activities in the famine-stricken Zamzam region refugee camp located near El Fasher. Sudan's UN ambassador Idris Al-Harith Mohammed, really, that's his whole fucking name, told the Security Council that the Sudanese government has a national plan for the protection of civilians and claimed Lockyer did not raise any issues with him in a previous private meeting. Reporting from the UN in New York, Al Jazeera's Gabriel Elizondo said diplomats in the Security Council frequently harked back to the Jeddah Declaration and agreement committing to protect civilians that was signed by warring parties in 2023 under the mediation of the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. The Jeddah Declaration is repeated by diplomats, particularly in the Security Council, over and over again as something that needs to be returned to, he said. Lockyer said that the international community needs to move beyond that and a new compact is needed for Sudan. So back here in the U.S., those people that were the government workers that were laid off, guess what? They're coming back. Because Trump likes to say a bunch of shit, but he doesn't know the law. Bring. What's next for laid off probationary workers after a judge orders they be rehired? So, after several labor unions filed lawsuits, a federal judge in California has ordered Donald Trump's administration to rehire thousands of laid-off federal workers. I'm not a big fan of, federal workers if they don't do shit, but, this is just ridiculous shit. John P. Mahoney, a D.C. employment attorney who specializes in cases involving federal workers, said probationary workers who've been let go should expect some sort of notification from the Office of Personnel Management to return. That's the OPM, not the OPP, because that's other people's. Well, we're going to be instructed to go back to work at some point, whether it be tomorrow or not is another question, Mahoney said. The lawsuit impacts laid-off probationary employees at the Departments of Veterans Affairs, Defense, Treasury, and Agriculture, Energy, and the Interior, but Mahoney said the judge didn't close the door on expanding the order to include other agencies. It's most likely going to cause OPM and the administration to reassess the legality of these probationary terminations without due process. That seems to be a theme for most of these presidents. Without due process. What? You didn't commit a crime, silly, but you said some bad thing about our boys over there. Hopefully cause them to voluntarily reverse all of them and bring all these people back to work, Mahoney said. One unknown, according to Mahoney, is whether this decision will be appealed. The issue becomes whether that judge's decision is going to be appealed at some point, whether that's some type of immediate appeal, which is pretty rare, or whether they're going to have to wait until the end of the district court case to appeal it to the Court of Appeals, Mahoney said. This could also be appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. Mahoney said things such as back pay still need to be determined if the ultimate decision is that probationary workers were illegally terminated. I think they're all unlawful, and I think it's smart ultimately for the agencies, for OPM and the departments, to bring these people back to work as soon as possible. Otherwise, they're going to face even larger back pay orders at the end of the day. He said even if workers return to the office, there could be more large-scale reductions in force. His hope, though, is that does not happen. The best thing to do, in my opinion, is to put everybody back to work and run the federal government as efficiently as possible. like it was efficient before they laid those fuckers off. Come on. As we have done for quite some time, over 100 years now. So, yeah. So, it seems to be a theme with Trump. It's like, I'm going to do this dumb shit, and then the courts are going to say, no, you can't, and then that'll be it. And, yeah, so. A waste of time. Meanwhile, people sleeping under bridges that may be collapsing. Hey, Teresa, good to see you, sweetie. How you doing? Good morning to you. And kill your egregore. I almost had it. Kill your egregores. Bella, good to see y'all. The gang's all here. Denver, you double dipping? You're on YouTube too? Traitor. You traitor. Nah, it's fine. Hang on a second. Well, if you're see, now you gotta make me do some work here. Fuck, Denver. God damn it. Hang on a second. I don't like white people in my chat. That's my rule. No white people. Go on, honky. All right. You should be a Smurf now, hopefully. Okay, so meanwhile, the U.S. House Republicans set to introduce a bill to block Chinese from student or research visas. Because, yeah, Chinese. Legislation comes as Trump administration reportedly waives travel bans for citizens from a select group of countries. Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives plan to introduce a bill today to block Chinese citizens from getting student visas, citing their potential to serve as spies for Beijing and adding fresh fuel to a debate about attracting needed foreign talent while addressing national security concerns. That's right, because, it's basically you any of these professions you see in the United States, you're going to find some Chinese people in there. So you take them away, Yeah, it's probably not good. But then again, these people aren't about foresight for any stretch of the imagination. Representative Riley Moore of West Virginia, a first-term congressman, is the sponsor of the Stop Chinese Communist Prying by Vindicating Individual Safeguards in Academia Act, or which would halt issuance of student or research visas for all Chinese nationals. The bill, which goes further than most previous attempts to restrict Chinese students, would have to pass the full House and Senate before it could be signed into law. Okay, that's another thing. As yet, it has no confirmed co-sponsors. According to Fox News, expected supporters include the usual suspects: Republican Representatives Andy Ogles of Tennessee, Brandon Gill of Texas, and Scott Perry of Pennsylvania. Moore's legislation comes as U.S. President Donald Trump's administration is reportedly weighing a new travel ban for citizens from a select group of countries, though there is no indication yet that China is on that list. International students have come under fire in the early weeks of the new Trump administration. Yesterday, demonstrators entered Trump Tower, as we told you about, to protest the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil. Chinese citizens make up the second largest group of foreign students in the United States after Indian nationals. Don't worry, India, you're next. You don't fuck up. Don't fuck up. After the 2023-24 academic year, 277,398 Chinese students were in the U.S., a figure that has steadily declined since the 2019-2020 school year. While many of these visa holders came here to study, far too many also served as intelligence gatherers or paid spies for the CCP, Moore wrote in a column in Newsweek, or actually got someone else to write him because the motherfucker's so fucking stupid, probably can't even write. To bolster his claim, Moore cited the case of 5 Chinese students at the University of Michigan who were charged in October with misleading authorities about their activities near a remote military site. We cannot eliminate the threat by simply devoting more time and money to the visa vetting process, he continues. That takes too long. Doing it the right way. It takes too long doing shit you're supposed to have a process. He continues, saying that the U.S. could not accurately flag the espionage risk of Chinese nationals because many who enter the United States with pure intentions are later recruited or coerced by the CCP. There's this fucking genius right there. Look at that face. Doesn't that face look just, it's just saying, I'm stupid. I'm stupid. I'm fucking stupid. Fucking idiot. He's probably waiting for a cock in his mouth. That's what he looks like. Most Democrats and Republicans have sounded alarm in the recent years about the role that non-traditional agents like students and researchers can play in gathering intelligence about sensitive information or technologies. But Republicans have been the primary advocates for blanket bans on Chinese students. In Project 2025, the blueprint by the Conservative Heritage Foundation think tank for a second Trump administration, the ICE agency is asked to work with the State Department to eliminate or significantly reduce the number of visas issued to foreign students from enemy nations. Enemy nations, even though we haven't declared war on them or anything, but they're enemy nations, right? Yeah. So, in 2020, during his first term, Trump signed a proclamation that led to the cancellation of over 1,000 visas for Chinese nationals deemed high-risk graduate students and research scholars. Moore's bill does not differentiate between a student's field or level of study. It targets the 3 main types of U.S. study visas, F, J, and M visas, which are used respectively for studying at U.S. universities and English language institutes, that's F, exchanges at the high school and university level, that's J, and non-academic and vocational training or study, that's M. Other recent legislation, such as bills introduced by human brain transplant failure Tom Cotton, Republican of Arkansas, which have targeted graduate-level students or researchers from China and those focused on science, computer science, engineering, maths, and other STEM fields. Opponents of broad bans argue that the benefits of academic input and exchange brought by Chinese students outweigh the risk of espionage, right? It's like voting. All these Republicans talk about voter fraud, like dead people voting and stuff, but they don't give a fuck about election fraud. Election fraud, as long as it benefits us, that's all that matters. But this voter fraud, these dead people voting, nah, I got something to say about that. Basic educational exchange is a foundation for U.S.-Chinese relations, said Representative Raja Krishnamurthy of Illinois, the senior Democrat on the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, in response to Moore's bill. These visa restrictions are overly broad and damaging to many Chinese students who hope to restudy at the best universities in the world, he said, adding that research security must be achieved with a scalpel, not a bludgeon. But no, man, see, that takes too long. We gotta like skirt the Constitution and your civil rights and stuff and get this shit going. We don't care as long as you're Chinese. We don't give a fuck. You can't come in. Representative Grace Meng, a New York Democrat who chairs the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, said on Thursday that banning only Chinese students was xenophobic and wrong-headed. Well, the xenophobic part, yeah, that's pretty... Wrong-headed is kind of mild is fucking racist is what it is. We cannot give in to fear-mongering tactics that will resist the freedoms and economic opportunities that make America the envy of the world. I'm gonna say something about that statement right there. We may have been the envy of the world at some point, but given the situation within the last several years, I'm gonna say that's probably inaccurate. And there's this nice guy right there. How you doing, Bob? Previous bills to block Chinese students have failed to become law and draw strong criticism from Asian American groups. That's probably going to be the same thing here. This is all just bluster. It's all bullshit. All talk, no action. What the fuck? Hang on a second. What is this? What are you doing this for? That was not. What the hell just happened? Hang on a second, folks. I accidentally hit something. Oh, well, that's not good. What did I do? Okay, well, maybe it's just time that was over with. Hang on just a second here. Be right back. All right. I don't know what happened there. But that was basically the end of the article anyway. That was just wild, man. This fucking thing. This fucking thing. So basically they're going to try to keep these Chinese people out. And it's all virtue signaling, red meat for the base, basically. Just like, these Chinese. Like all our problems are Chinese, or it's Hamas, or whatever it is, right? Or it's anti-Semitism. They always blame it. They never blame the actual real thing. So, wow, that is so wild how that happened. Anyway, so meanwhile, in more fuckery, Trump to invoke Wartime Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to carry out deportations to Guantanamo. Because, yes, they have to dig back into the 1700s to get some fuckery law. Trump is planning to invoke a wartime law known as the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 as soon as Friday, which is today, to authorize the summary deportation of some immigrants, including to Guantanamo Bay, escalating his government-wide immigration crackdown. Multiple U.S. officials familiar with the plan told CBS News. The 227-year-old law gives presidents the extraordinary power to order the arrest, detention, and deportation of non-citizens who are 14 years or older and come from countries staging an invasion or predatory incursion of the U.S. Invasion, right? Mr. Trump is expected to cite the 18th century statute to order the swift detention and deportation of suspected members of the Tren de Aragua, a Venezuelan gang with prison origins that his administration has designated a foreign terrorist organization, according to sources who didn't want people to find out that they're fucking snitches. Officials have made preparations to send suspected gang members to the U.S. naval base at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, soon after Trump invokes the Alien Enemies Act, two of the officials said. Trump's direction, officials have been detaining some migrants awaiting deportation at the naval base, though the holding facilities were left empty earlier this week. Those subject to the Alien Enemies Act would not be allowed to have a court hearing or an asylum interview since they would be processed under an emergency wartime authority, not immigration law. See, Sneaky Pete, that's how we do things. We don't do shit the right way. We do things a sneaky way. Instead, they would be eligible to be detained and deported with little to no due process under Title 50, the section of the U.S. Code housing America's war and defense laws. See, we don't have to declare war anymore because of like the Patriot Act and shit like that. We're like, oh, 9/11, y'all, come on, let's go in there. The Alien Enemies Act has been invoked only a few times in U.S. history, including during World War II, when the government used it to surveil and detain Italian, German, and Japanese immigrants in the United States. Don't forget those detention camps. Our Japanese friends haven't forgotten that. Its invocation to target migrants from countries with which the U.S. is not actively at war is almost certain to face legal challenges. Again, yes, it will face legal challenges. Trump previewed his invocation of the AEA in an executive order issued on his first day back at the White House. It directed the Secretaries of State and Homeland Security to plan for the potential invocation of the law and prepare facilities necessary to expedite the removal of those subject to it. By invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, I will direct our government to waste a whole bunch of fucking time and make you think that I'm actually doing so. Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks, bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities, Mr. Trump said in an inaugural address. CBS News reached out to representatives of the White House and the Department of Homeland Security for comment, but they already knew that they weren't going to get any comment ahead of time because they're cucks to power. Yes. So I don't like doing these Trump stories because all it is just fuckery and distractions. But at the same time, some of these things actually stick and affect people. So that's why I'm doing some of these Trump things. So, you know, just so you know, I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. I have evil cocksucker derangement syndrome. Okay. And that applies to a whole bunch of people across the political spectrum. So Trump is threatening 200% tariffs on European wine after EU proposes American whiskey tariff. That face says it all right there. What? Fucking idiot. Trump yesterday threatened a 200% tariff on European wine, champagne, and spirits. Fuck off. If the European Union goes forward with a planned tariff on American whiskey. See, the world is conspiring to make your shit expensive. Even more expensive. The European import tax, which was unveiled in response to steel and aluminum tariffs by the U.S. administration, is expected to go into effect April 1st, April Fool's Day, or every motherfucker's birthday, just ahead of separate reciprocal tariffs that Trump plans to place on the EU. But Trump, in a morning social media post, vowed a new escalation in his trade war if the EU goes forward with the planned 50% tax on American whiskey. Trust me, Europe, you probably have better whiskey than America, so don't even buy that shit, all right? If this tariff is not removed immediately, the U.S. will shortly place a 200% tariff on all wine, champagnes, and alcoholic products coming out of France and other EU-represented countries, Trump wrote. This will be great for the wine and champagne businesses in the U.S. You're a fucking idiot. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, when she's not, trying to kill Dalmatians and turn them into coats, said Thursday that the EU Trade Commissioner would have a phone call Friday with his U.S. counterpart. Oh, really now? We don't like tariffs because we think tariffs are taxes and they're bad for business and they're bad for consumers, she said. But we have always said at the same time that we will defend our interests. Defend our interests. Have you heard that before? We've said it and we've shown it. But at the same time, I also want to emphasize that we are open for negotiations. Trump has defined his opening weeks in the White House with near daily drama regarding tariffs, saying that taxing imports might cause some economic pain, but would eventually lead to more domestic manufacturing and greater respect for America. But with the EU and Trump now tussling over alcohol tariffs, the impact of a trade war could surface for consumers. It's unclear how the import taxes would be absorbed among vintners, distillers, brewers, distributors, and retailer consumers. Little sidebar here. What this might actually turn into is a boon for the marijuana industry, for the cannabis industry here. So it's like, oh man, I ain't gonna buy all that. I ain't gonna pay, $100 for a bottle of, champagne and shit or wine or something like that. Man, I just get a little. Like $30. Yeah. Don't put tariffs on the weed, kid, Because of Trump's threat, a previously untariffed $15 bottle of Italian Prosecco could possibly increase the price to $45. Similarly, Europe's response to Trump's steel and aluminum tariffs means that the cost of a €30 bottle of bourbon in Paris could increase to €45. Again, just get it from Canada. Just get it from Canada. This shit's good enough. Holly Seedwan, owner of First Fill Spirits, a shop in Saratoga Springs, New York, said before Trump threatened the tariffs on European alcohol, the spirits industry was already reeling from layoff announcements in the Kentucky bourbon sector and tariffs planned by the EU on American spirits. This ongoing tariff war doesn't just harm importers, it weakens domestic brands, disrupts distributors, and squeezes retailers who rely on global selection, she said. In the end, consumers will bear the brunt of all of it. Gabriel Picard, engage, who heads the French Federation of Exporters of Wines and Spirits. I wonder if he's the great-great-great-great-grandfather of Jean-Luc. Said 200% tariffs would be a hammer blow for the section. Hold it, stop. Hammer blow. Can't drink this. Too expensive. He said the U.S. market is worth 4 billion euros at 4.3 billion American annually for French exporters of wine and spirits. Not a single bottle will continue to be expedited if 200% tariffs are applied to our products. All exports to the United States will come to a total halt, Picard said in an interview with the AP before beaming aboard the Enterprise and taking on the Borg. With 200% duties, there's no more market. Well, there's, just wait a few hundred years and, shit'll be free, in Star Trek. As of now, Europe seems unwilling to back down. Trump is escalating the trade war he has chosen. Laurent Saint-Martin, the French, or Saint-Martin, the French delegate minister for foreign trade, said on the Twitters, France, together with the European Commission and our partners, is determined to fight back. We will not give in to threats and will always protect our industries. Trump's latest tariff threats suggested that even companies that have publicly stood by him could be collateral damaged, raising questions about whether the wider business community would be willing to openly challenge a series of trade wars that have hurt the stock market and scared consumers who worry about inflation worsening. Bernard Arnault, the CEO of French luxury goods company LVMH, attended Trump's inauguration in January. His company's wine and spirits brand, which includes Moet and Chandon, Krug, and Hennessy. Hennessy! Uh-oh! They're going to come after your Newports next, kid. Next. They're trying to make you Hennessy too much. Could be subject to the retaliatory tariffs the U.S. president is seeking. The Italian company Campari could also be hurt after the White House highlighted it at Tuesday's press briefing for possibly opening a U.S. factory. The Republican president on Wednesday had signaled that he intended to take the tariffs actions. Of course, I will respond, Trump told reporters during an Oval Office exchange with reporters in between blowjobs on Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump, in announcing the new steel and aluminum tariffs on Wednesday, openly challenged U.S. allies and vowed to take back wealth stolen by other countries, and he drew quick retaliation. He has separate tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China, with plans to also tax imports from the EU, Brazil, South Korea by charging reciprocal rates starting on April 2nd. The EU announced its own countermeasures. Colonel Klink said that the United States was applying tariffs worth $28 billion. We are responding with countermeasures worth 26 billion euros, or about $28 billion. Those measures cover not just steel and aluminum products, but also textiles, home appliances, and agricultural goods. European Commission spokesman Olaf Gill said Thursday, shortly before Trump's announcement, that the EU was prepared for whatever might come, and we have been preparing for over a year. We call on the U.S. to immediately revoke the tariffs imposed yesterday, and we want to negotiate to avoid tariffs in the future, Gill said. They bring nothing but lose-lose outcomes, and we want to focus on win-win outcomes. U.S. whiskey makers, meanwhile, encouraged Trump to broker the deal. Of course they did. Of course they did. We urged Trump to secure a spirits agreement with the EU to get us back to 0 for 0 tariffs, which will create U.S. jobs and increase manufacturing and export, and will bring back the dodo from extinction. Oh, and don't forget unicorns. Don't forget unicorns. We'll have a whole bunch of them, and exports for the American hospitality sector. Chris Swanger, president and CEO of the Distilled Spirits Council, said in a statement, when Europe responded to Trump's 2018 tariffs with a 25% tax on U.S. whiskey, exports to the EU fell by 20% through 2021, according to the Distilled Spirits Council. I want to be on the Distilled Spirits Council. That just sounds like something out of Hogwarts. Trump's separate 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico could put 31,000 jobs at risk in the sector. I think that's it from these guys. Yeah, so again, it's all bluster. It's not, he's going to bring the tariffs down and all this shit. It's just, come on, really? So, finally, in our news block, I know it's been, oh my God, 2.5 hours, really? I got to talk faster. So, a familiar face in the House of Representatives is no longer with us. Congressman Raul Grijalva, defender of working people and planet, dead at 77. Condolences and remembrances swiftly mounted yesterday after the staff of U.S. Congressman Raul Grijalva. He's fucking... I knew this guy's name too, god damn it. Announced that the Arizona Democrat died at age 77 following a fight with lung cancer. He fought a long and brave battle. He passed away this morning due to complications of his cancer treatments, according to the office of the late congressman who announced his diagnosis last April. Grijalva, who represented Arizona's 7th district, was first elected to Congress in 2002. While on Capitol Hill, he rose to leadership roles, including co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and chair of the House Natural Resources Committee. From permanently protecting the Grand Canyon for future generations to strengthening the Affordable Care Act, two things he probably shouldn't have, nobody needs to be proud of. His proudest moments, well, the Grand Canyon thing was probably bullshit. Anyway, his proudest moments in Congress have always been guided by community voices, his staff said. He led the charge for historic investments in climate action, port of entry modernization, permanent funding for land and water, conservation programs, access to health care for tribal communities and the uninsured, fairness for immigrant families and dreamers, student loan forgiveness, stronger protections for farmers and workers exposed to extreme heat, early childhood education expansion, higher standards for tribal consultation, and much, much more. From Tucson to Nogales and beyond, he worked tirelessly for transformational improvements. He pushed for new public parks, child care centers, healthcare clinics, local businesses, and affordable housing that breathed new life into neighborhoods across southern Arizona. Improvements to our roads, bridges, and streetcar systems have improved over daily lives and attracted new businesses and industry in the area, the office said. His passion was not only for his community, but for preservation of the planet. Wait a minute, they have trolleys in Arizona. That's cool. His colleagues also highlighted key parts of his legacy. Senator Ed Markey from Massachusetts, former House member, said that, "I'm heartbroken by the news of his passing. For climate justice, economic justice, health justice, Raul fought fearlessly for change. We served a decade together on the National Resources Committee, and I will forever be grateful for his leadership and partnership." Bernie Sanders, who also previously served in the lower chamber, said while taking Joe Biden's cock out of his mouth, "I mourn the death of Representative Raul Grijalva, a former colleague of mine and one of the most progressive members of the U.S. House. Raul was a fighter for working families throughout his entire life. He will be sorely missed." Vote Quimby. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said his death's a genuine devastating loss, adding, He stood as one of the biggest champions for working people in all of Congress. His leadership was singular. He mentored generously and was an incredible friend. I will always be grateful for his lifelong courage and commitment. That's my AOC impression. I always add the smacks because she doesn't do the smacks, but I added the smacks for effect. Peace up. What's going on? He worked with natives in Arizona. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sure he did some good things, but when you've been in Congress that long, yeah. Representative Delia Ramirez from right here in Illinois said that today we lost a dedicated progressive leader, the son of a bracero. His 12-term commitment to our environment, to immigrant communities, and to his constituents in Tucson enriched his country. This country, his passing is a monumental loss. And then some other people say some shit. So basically that's it. R.I.P. King. Rest in power. Glad you're not in this shitter anymore. So, okay. Ooh, I know, man. Fat fingers. I gotta watch out for that. So, everybody loves Tulsi, right? You love Tulsi Gabbard. She's your friend, right? Kind of got that little gray swoopy thing. Turns out she doesn't like it when people tell the truth. I don't know what happened with that.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Tulsi Gabbard withdraws war critic from top intel job following smear campaign by pro-Israel groups. Look at her. Mr. Rourke-looking motherfucker. U.S. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard declined to appoint a critic of Washington's wars to a key briefing position for U.S. President Donald Trump following a smear campaign by D.C.-based outlet Jewish Insider. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Danny Davis was tapped to serve as the Deputy Director of National Intelligence working under Gabbard, giggity, until his appointment was abruptly withdrawn Wednesday, reports Politico. As Deputy DNI, Davis would have overseen the compiling of the President's Daily Brief, a collection of intelligence evaluations sent to the White House and key policymakers. Hours before Gabbard dropped Davis's name on March 12th, the Anti-Defamation League, those crazy kids over there at the ADL who think that if you criticize Zionists, you're criticizing all Jews, even the Rajas, the regular-ass Jews, which is not true. So the Anti-Defamation League called his appointment extremely dangerous. In a social media post, the pro-Israel group accused Davis of minimizing the Hamas attack on the Gaza envelope on October 7, 2023, and of undermining U.S. support for Israel. He had opposed military action to destroy Iran's nuclear program and suggested that it is only U.S. and Israeli policy and actions that are pushing Iran towards pursuing a nuclear weapon, JI declared in its report. Davis is a senior fellow at Defense Priorities, a D.C. think tank funded by U.S. billionaire Charles Koch, remember that guy, that advocates for a realistic approach to U.S. foreign policy and has criticized Washington's limitless support for Israel's recent wars in West Asia. Earlier this year, Davis described U.S. support for the Gaza genocide as a stain on our character as a nation, as a culture that will not soon go away. In his articles, Davis often argues that Iran is not a direct threat to U.S. national security and suggests that U.S. military presence near the Islamic Republic escalates tensions, giving Tehran opportunities to retaliate against U.S. troops. Wow, that's just silly. That is just nutty. A decorated veteran of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, he sent a report to Congress in 2009 while on active duty and published an article condemning top commanders for lying to the U.S. population. I witnessed the absence of success on virtually every level, Davis said, of his fourth tour of Afghanistan, stressing that people in the U.S. deserve better than what they've gotten from their senior informed leaders over the last number of years. Simply telling the truth would be a good start. telling the truth. Shit, I almost choked myself. Gabbard herself has also come under attack by war hawks in Washington for her positions on the various conflicts in West Asia. Come on, these dumb motherfuckers. So, in other, oops, I should have kept my mouth shut news. U.S. envoy sidelined by Trump after CNN interview on direct U.S.-Hamas talks. So they were talking to, we told you about that earlier in the show, about 2 days ago, about that Hamas was having separate talks with the U.S. Adam Boehler, the U.S. government special envoy for hostage affairs, was stripped of his role over statements he made during an interview regarding negotiations with Hamas, according to reports yesterday. The administration has pulled him off of the Hamas hostage file and said that he needs to be further sidelined. 3 sources in the U.S. Republican Party were cited as saying by Jewish Insider, those crazy kids. It's like he's in Never Never Land, one source said. My thing is, I don't know why we'd be interested in him doing anything going forward after what we saw, said another. He's been sidelined, and that's good, but I don't know what level. To what level. It was beyond bad, a disaster. I like Adam, but I think he needs to be parked, a third Republican source said. Free speech. Free speech. The report signals that there is talk to remove him entirely from the administration and not just from his role negotiating Gaza ceasefire issues. Look, they don't have horns growing out of their heads. They're actually guys like us. They're pretty nice guys. We're the U.S., we're not an agent of Israel. We have specific interests at play, Boehler told CNN last week, referring to Washington's separate talks with the Palestinian resistance movement, which were held recently in Cairo. And there he is talking down here. I don't like this. I don't like Tapper. He's a piece of shit. Fuck him. But you get the gist. And when asked if there would be further talks with Hamas, he said, "You never know. Sometimes you're in an area and you drop by." What is it be like? He's going to go to Palestine and be like, "Hey, that's in the area. Thought I'd stop and see, hey, what's going on?" Boehler further angered Israeli officials by speaking to Channel 12 News, telling the broadcaster there have been positive developments in negotiations with Hamas. Yeah, because a positive thing angering Israeli officials is, kind of the status quo. The U.S.-Hamas talks, which in part focused on securing the release of Israeli captives with U.S. citizenship from the Gaza Strip, frustrated Israel from their onset, but Boehler's comments to CNN made things worse. Israeli officials lambasted the envoy. Anyone who quotes Hamas and negotiates with them directly is making a huge error, one that endangers the hostages. Well, that's one thing that endangers the hostages. The IDF is the other one that, like 99% of the time, endangers the hostages. Said Knesset member Simcha Rothman, who Israeli finance minister Bezalel Smotrich said Boehler was acting on his own accord and cannot speak on their behalf. I swear, I'm glad I don't work in Washington. I'd burn that whole fucking town down. After facing backlash following his CNN interview, the envoy said, "I want to be crystal clear, as some have misinterpreted." Here he goes, backpedaling. "Hamas is a terrorist organization that has murdered thousands of innocent people. They are by definition bad people. And as Trump has said, not a single Hamas member will be safe if Hamas doesn't release all the hostages immediately." Yeah, put that Zionist cock back in your mouth there. You spoke too much truth, dumbass. Ceasefire negotiations are currently ongoing in Qatar's capital, Doha, with Israeli media reports suggesting a positive atmosphere. An Israeli delegation is in Doha for the talks. Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement are also in Qatari capital for discussions with mediators. Israel has recently been obstructing the Gaza ceasefire deal from moving forward by demanding an extension of its first phase and refusing to engage in talks for the agreement's second phase. It has also imposed new conditions and has demanded a full disarmament of Hamas's military wing, threatening a resumption of war on the Strip. It has also recently made calls for the release of all captives from Gaza in a single swap. in violation of the deal's exchange protocol. The Israeli army has approved offensive plans to return to its genocidal military campaign. Yay! It's been too long since we murdered children. Come on, man. We got to get our murder on. And the Oscars were what, last weekend, I think, weekend before last, and believe No Other Land was the winner of the award for Best Documentary Feature. I don't really give a shit about the Oscars, but it is kind of nice when you can kind of get through to some of the shit libs, hopefully. But in Florida, it's Florida gonna Florida, as Miami Beach mayor seeks to evict theater over anti-Semitic Oscar-winning documentary. There's the kids right there, the Oscar winners. Bazal Adra left and Yuval Abraham, winners of the award for Best Documentary. So Miami Beach mayor and alligator rapist Stephen Maynor is pushing to evict a theater from a city-owned space after the theater screened Oscar-winning documentary film No Other Land. He claims it's anti-Semitic because he was told to say it was anti-Semitic because he's a fucking moron. The documentary, which produced by a collective of Israeli and Palestinian documentary filmmakers, chronicles the destruction of a Palestinian village by Israeli military forces in the occupied West Bank. The film won an Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature Film earlier this month and has received universal critical acclaim with a 100% rating on the critic aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, but it has also faced backlash on claims that it is anti-Semitic, even though 2 of the 4 directors are Jewish. But that doesn't matter. It don't matter. Maynard also asked O Cinema of South Beach not to screen the film, calling it hateful propaganda. After initially agreeing to stop presentations, the cinema screened it to the sold-out audiences. It is currently scheduled to have 4 more screenings on March 19th and 20th. Screenings of the film are also scheduled to take place this week at the Coral Gables Art Cinema. Coral Gables owns the building where the Art Cinema operates. And this is the mayor. Look at that motherfucker. Look at that grill. He has a literal shit-eating grin. Look at him. Fucker. O Cinema CEO Vivian Martell told the Miami Herald a short speech would be read at every screening, explaining that the decision to show the film is not a declaration of political alignment. It is, however, a bold reaffirmation of our fundamental belief that every voice deserves to be heard, even and perhaps especially when it challenges us. I hate civil talk. Why can't people just speak plainly? Instead of saying, pardon me, sir, you just say, look, motherfucker. The ACLU of Florida, which has a long history of battling local governments against alleged censorship and violations of the freedom of speech, wrote in a post on the tweeters, we're closely monitoring this issue and remain committed to ensuring that a variety of voices on issues important to Miami Beach residents can continue. So they're not saying like, no, this is bullshit, this is wrong. The ACLU is like, well, we're taking it, we're keeping an eye on, we're keeping an eye peeled. Own it for you. Adam Steinbaugh, a staff fraternity at the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, told WLRN, that's the site we're on here now, in a statement, screening movies to make sure they conform to local censors' taste is a practice we left behind with the Red Scare. If the First Amendment doesn't mean that a movie theater can show an Oscar-winning film, something is seriously wrong. That is an understatement. According to CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations and its Florida chapter, they also criticized the Miami Beach mayor for having shit between his teeth and dismissing free speech rights. Mayor Stephen Maynor fails to unite Miami Beach residents, visitors, or anyone who does not subscribe to his blind support for the genocidal Israeli government, said CARE Florida Communications Director Wilfredo Ruiz in a statement. Added CARE Deputy Executive Director Edward Ahmed Mitchell, Mayor Myers, try saying that 10 times. Mayor Myers' attempt to punish a movie theater for showing a documentary critical of a foreign government is an un-American and unconstitutional attack on free speech and the humanity of Palestinians. We urge the Miami Beach city government to reject this un-American act of censorship. Then they remembered they were in Florida and said, well, fuck me, never mind, you're not going to do it anyway. Oh, Cinema has operated at the historic Old City Hall building on Washington Avenue, which also houses the Miami Beach District Court since 2019. The nonprofit also operated North Beach's historic Byron Carlisle Theater from 2014 to 2018. In a statement, Maynor said he believes in free speech, but his Zionist masters told him to shut the fuck up and do what you're told. But that screening of the film was unacceptable in a city-owned facility. The Miami Beach mayor has presented a solution, asking the city commission to evict the theater. The resolution will be heard at the city meeting next week on March 19th. Cinema management officials did not immediately respond to a request for comment to WLNR. So WLNR on your radio dial. Come see us. More censorship, if you like that sort of thing. And I know you do. Muslim scholar of international law barred from Yale University after AI-powered accusations. Oh, AI, you racist piece of shit. In October 2023, the Law and Political Economy Project at the prestigious Yale Law School, Yale, man, love it, one of the most influential and respected academic and legal institutions in the country, brought on a young Iranian Muslim scholar of international law to become deputy director of the team. Then last week, that deputy director, Hell yeah, Dutagi, was barred from campus altogether. Hell yeah. The move was prompted by allegations on a lesser-known, largely AI-powered news site called Jewish Onliner. Not Jewish Insider this time, it's Jewish Onliner, which said that Dutagi had ties to the Palestinian Prisoner Solidarity Network, better known as Sandbloom. The group was sanctioned in the U.S. and declared a terrorist group in Canada in October 2024. Oh, if they're considered a terrorist group, then they must be good people. The initial email from the general counsel had specifically linked to the Jewish Onliner article and said that was the trigger of the investigation, so there's no dispute about it, Eric Lee, Dutagi's lawyer, told Middle East Eye on Thursday. Dutagi suggested Yale had already carried out an investigation. Rather than investigate the source of these allegations first, the nation's top law school accepted them at face value and shifted the burden of proof from the accuser to the accused, treating me prima facie as guilty until proven otherwise, she wrote in a statement on the tweeters. The Jewish Onliner describes itself as an online hub for insights, investigations, data, and exposés about issues impacting the Jewish community, empowered by AI capabilities. According to an investigation by the Israeli paper Haaretz, the site is linked to FactFinder AI, a program not only prone to mistakes, but also linked to pro-Israel activists. Ta-da! There you go. It's fucked up, and it's run by Israelis. Vocal critic of Israeli policy, Dutagi denied all the allegations against her and called Yale's actions a blatant act of retaliation against Palestinian solidarity, a violation of my constitutional rights, free speech, academic freedom, and fundamental due process rights. I'm being targeted for one reason alone, she said, for speaking the truth about the genocide of the Palestinian people that Yale University is complicit in. Despite large-scale student protests in 2024, the institution refused to divest from companies that produce the weapons that the U.S. provides to Israel. David Ring, the general counsel brought in by Yale to interview Dutagi, has ties to the U.S. State Department and U.S. weapons manufacturers, and she did not feel he could conduct a fair interview. Probably a good call there. It's reprehensible that YLS, I guess that's Yale Law School, would appoint a counsel who profits from the machinery of Palestinian death to interview an employee about their public anti-genocide and pro-Palestinian positions, she wrote on them tweeters. Lee, Dutagi's lawyer, told Middle East Eye that the interview never ended up taking place because Ring would not permit a religious accommodation for the day, given Dutagi was fasting for Ramadan and had been enduring online harassment ever since the Jewish onliner published its article. She's been dealing with an immense amount of abuse and was overwhelmed by this situation, he said. By the close of business that day, I received the email notifying us from Yale's general counsel that she had been put on administrative leave and on the grounds that we had failed to cooperate with their investigation, which was ridiculous, Lee said. And in this case, it's not silly. They're saying ridiculous, and it is ridiculous. Dutagi is just one of many academics in the U.S. targeted for their advocacy against Israel and its war on Gaza. A practice Zionist groups have long preceded October 7th, 2023. But she may be the first to be immediately suspended after an obscure AI-run site makes claims that she has links to terrorists. I am a scholar of international law and geopolitical economy. My research engages the forms of knowledge produced in international humanitarian law to obscure and shield U.S. military operations from accountability, she wrote. Her lawyer said that the very project she was hired to help direct was ostensibly established to investigate the source of the threat to democracy posed by Trump. It's completely capitulating to Trump's effort to establish a dictatorship and eviscerate economic freedom. It is perhaps not surprising. Nonetheless, it should shock people that not a single professor at Yale has stood up publicly to oppose what the university is doing. Yeah, because fuck Yale. That's where Bush went to. And I think Bush Sr. too. Lee said that he is now, Skull and Bones. Yeah. Lee said he is now requesting that Yale reinstate Dutagi, give her back her access to her email account, and also issue a public statement restoring her reputation, which has been damaged by their actions. So, more fuckery. Oh, that's not right. There we go. And finally, in our propaganda watch, I don't like doing Elon Musk stories. I'm not. I don't like to do the clickbaity stuff, But unfortunately, he is working for the government in some capacity, so we have to at least keep an eye on what he's doing. And what's this dumb motherfucker doing now? Elon Musk wants to use AI to run the U.S. government, but experts say very bad idea. Yeah, good for you, you experts, in your very bad idea. This fuckhead. Look at this fucking moron. He looks like somebody's dad who's trying to be cool, but everybody knows he's a fucking moron. Is Elon Musk planning to use artificial intelligence to run the U.S. government? That seems to be his plan, but experts say it's a very bad idea. Musk has fired tens of thousands of federal government employees through his Department of Government Efficiency, which are probably those jobs will be coming back. Good job wasting time there, as he reportedly requires the remaining workers to send the department a weekly email featuring 5 bullet points describing what they accomplished that week. Since that will no doubt flood Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, or you should make it DOGV, the Department of Government Fuckery, with hundreds of thousands of these types of emails, Musk is relying on artificial intelligence to process responses and help determine who should remain employed. Because, of course, you want to leave that up to a robot. You have human robots who's doing that already. So let's just take the human part out. Part of that plan reportedly is also to replace many government workers with AI systems. It's not yet clear what any of these AI systems look like or how they work, something Democrats in the United States Congress are demanding to be filled in on. But experts warn that utilizing AI in the federal government without robust testing and verification of these tools could have disastrous consequences. To use AI tools responsibly, they need to be designed with a particular purpose in mind. They need to be tested and validated. It's not clear whether any of that is being done here, says Carrie Coglianis, a professor of law and political science at the University of Pennsylvania. Cogliani says that if AI is being used to make decisions about who should be terminated from their job, he'd be very skeptical of that approach. Really? He says there's a very real potential for mistakes to be made, for the AI to be biased, and for other potential problems. A lot of these companies now are starting to use AI, especially they have like a big influx of like employees that they need to hire. A lot of them use AI to read resumes too. So there's no human calculation in that, or at least it's going away. It's a very bad idea. We don't know anything about how an AI would make such decisions, including how it was trained and the underlying algorithms, the data on which such decisions would be based, or why we should believe it is trustworthy. Scan the social media accounts of foreign nationals to identify anyone who may be a Hamas supporter in an effort to revoke their visas. As we told you about that, the U.S. government has not so far been transparent about how these kinds of systems might work because it's all talk, no action. It's like the guy at the bar that says, yeah, come on home with me, ladies. I got this big hog for you. Come on, come get this dick. And then they get in there and they unzip their pants and it's the Trump administration is really interested in pursuing AI at all costs, and I would like to see a fair, just, and equitable use of AI, says Hilke Schellman, a professor of journalism at New York University and an expert on artificial intelligence. There could be a lot of harms that go undetected. AI experts say that there are many ways in which the government use of AI can go wrong, like Skynet. They made movies about that, which is why it needs to be adopted carefully and conscientiously. Cogliani says governments around the world, including the Netherlands and the United Kingdom, have had problems with poorly executed AI that can make mistakes or show bias, and as a result have wrongly denied residents welfare benefits they are in need of. For instance, your robot overlords choosing whether you live or die. That's basically where we're getting to. In the U.S., the state of Michigan had a problem with AI that was used to find fraud in its unemployment system when it incorrectly identified thousands of cases of alleged fraud. Many of those denied benefits were dealt with harshly, including being hit with multiple penalties and accused of fraud. People were arrested and even filed for bankruptcy. After a 5-year period, the state admitted that the system was faulty, and a year later, it ended up refunding $21 million to residents wrongly accused of fraud. They also said, quote, oopsie sauce, unquote. Look at that. Look at that scary ass shit. Fuck that. Most of the time, the officials purchasing and deploying these technologies know little about how they work, their biases and limitations and errors, said Parthasarathi. But because low income and otherwise marginalized communities tend to have the most contact with governments through social services, such as unemployment benefits, foster care, law enforcement, they tend to be affected most by problematic AI. Whoa, what is that? You mean like ordinary ass people are getting fucked over by AI? What? What kind of that shit? AI has also caused problems in government when it's been used in the courts to determine things like someone's parole eligibility, or in police departments when it's been used to try to predict where a crime is likely to occur. Future crimes. Remember that movie, that thing? With the guy and the thing? Shellman says that the AI used by police departments is typically trained on historical data from those departments, and that can cause the AI to recommend over-policing areas that have long been over-policed, especially communities of color. AI does not understand anything. Exactly. One of the problems with potentially using AI to replace workers in the federal government is that there are so many different kinds of jobs in the government that require specific skills and knowledge. An IT person in the Department of Justice might have a very different job from one in the Department of Agriculture, for example, even though they have the same job title. An AI program, therefore, I love how they do the program because it's like foreign. An AI program with the ME on the end, therefore, would have to be complex and highly trained to do even a mediocre job at replacing a human worker. I don't think you can randomly cut people's jobs and then replace them with any AI, says Coglianis. The tasks that those people were performing are often highly specialized and specific. Shellman said you could use AI to do parts of someone's job that might be predictable or repetitive, but you can't just completely replace someone. That would theoretically be possible if you were to spend years developing the right AI tools to do many, many different kinds of jobs, a very difficult task and not what the government appears to be currently doing. Look at that face. Wait a minute. No. These workers have real expertise and a nuanced understanding of the issues which AI does not. AI does not, in fact, understand anything, said Lady P. It's a use of computational methods to find patterns based on historical data, and so it is likely to have limited utility and even reinforce historical biases. The administration of former U.S. President Joe Biden issued an executive order in 2023 focused on the responsible use of AI in government and how AI would be tested and verified, but this order was rescinded by the Trump administration in January. Shellman says this has made it less likely that AI will be used responsibly in government or that researchers will be able to understand how AI is even being utilized. All of this said, if AI is developed responsibly, it can be very helpful. AI can automate repetitive tasks so workers can focus on more important things or help workers solve problems they're struggling with. But it does need to be given the time to be deployed in the correct manner. That's not to say we couldn't use AI tools wisely, said Cogliani's, but governments go astray, and when they try to rush and do things quickly without proper public input and thorough validation and verification of how the algorithm is actually working. But here we go. That AI's coming, y'all. It's here. It's here. And like I said, a lot of the stuff these people do, it's all smoke and mirrors and the real fuckery is going on behind the scenes that you're not going to hear about unless you're an insider or something like that. Or you're a very good investigative journalist and happen to, break that news. But, repetitive tasks. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind AI. I think AI is kind of cool. Like, if you need some artwork pretty quick and you ain't got you're like a small business or something like that, and you need like some artwork for some of your stuff, and you don't want to spend an arm and a leg. Granted that if a human artist is doing the artwork, they deserve an arm and a leg if it's really good, but a lot of times people can't afford that because we live in America and all their shit's fucked. So, but like repetitive shit that, that's one thing. Even the repetitive shit, it can still fuck up because the memory on AI, you have to have an incredible amount of memory, right? Like a human brain, you can't match a human brain when it comes to memory like that. It's just, you just can't do it. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on the AI fuckery as it turns out. So anybody else sneak in here while I was doing shit? Okay. All right. Hey, yeah, very good. Okay. Oh, hey, Wesley. Good to see you, bud. Finally today, y'all, my buddy Franco, you know him, Frank Analysis, heading down to South America to go see his abuela. So I know he's not listening, but he's a good cat. He's going down there to Peru, and I just want to I didn't get a chance to warn him that if he goes down there, he needs to watch out because there's some thieving ass monkeys down in Peru. I ain't lying. Escaped pet monkey captured after home burglary spree. Look at this bitch. He said, I steal all your shits. I got all your shits. Authorities in Peru apprehended an unusual burglary suspect responsible for ransacking multiple homes and escaped pet monkey. Peru's National Forestry and Wildlife Service said personnel responded alongside veterinary staff from the Ica Municipal Zoo when a monkey was seen on rooftops, trees, and power lines in an Ica housing complex. Is there any more of this? The monkey, a male black capuchin, was found to have broken into a number of local homes and caused damage. Officials said the monkey is a native to the Amazon, the forest, not the website. Not the Ica area either, leading them to suspect the small primate was an escaped pet. Marks along the animal's waist were consistent with having been tied with a rope or chain. The monkey was safely removed from a neighborhood tree and taken to the Ica Municipal Zoo, where it is currently in quarantine. Officials said the monkey is too domesticated to release into its natural habitat, but it was unclear whether it would remain at the zoo in Ica or be moved to a new permanent home at another zoo or sanctuary. And also, thieving-ass monkey. Motherfucker, you steal from me? You take bread out of me, my baby's mouth? Holy shit. 3 hours, 10 minutes. It may be a record. But I'm kind of making up for not having a show on Tuesday, so you have to forgive me with that. All right. Yeah, so I guess that's the show. Yeah, I am. Yeah. He just, the one he just did. Yeah. So just put one out about, not giving a shit. It's a good video. I liked what he put it together. So it's pretty good. Oh, you like that? You like the long stream? That's what she said. Wait, what? All right. So, I forgot to do this at the top, but of course I want us to remember our buddies, Cowboy Kitty. What's up, buddy? Our buddy Chanda, who's dealing with lung cancer. Please help her out if you can. Spread the word. Share the links if you can. She's doing good. She's doing well as far as the treatments are concerned. But like I said, they're expensive as fuck, and she can always use your help. And of course, our buddy Kevin over at Black Bear News, dealing with losing his home during the LA fires. And he could use your help too. All those links for them are down in the description below. We also got the secret show. I know. I fucked up and got sick. But this week, it might be a long show. Might be a really, really, really long show. It may last till Thursday. I'm just saying, could happen. So, trying to make up for lost time. Yeah, so safe travels to you, Franco. I know he's probably en route already, so he may already be down there. Watch out for thieving ass monkeys, not just in Peru, but everywhere. Watch out for AI. That's looking at you, trying to take your job. They're taking our jobs. So, it was marathon show today, almost 3.5 hours. Well, okay, take out the music and the fuckery at the top. You probably say about 3 hours. About 3 hours. So, which is fine. I dig it, man. I didn't think the show was going to go that long. I looked at it and said, I got like 20 stories. All right. But yeah, a lot of them were long stories. So if you fell asleep, I hope you got a good nap. We try to provide multiple services here at the show, including sleep aids. So if you can't enjoy the information or take the information in, at least if it makes you sleep better at night and gives you a nice little cartoon Z's over your head, everything's fine. So, yeah. So anywho, back to the Saturday fun. Tomorrow night, we'll be back here with this show, Tuesday. Like I said, we're doing Tuesdays and Fridays now, probably longer shows, definitely longer show today. But we're trying to do quality over quantity and, trying to make the most of getting as much information to you, aggregate it and get it out to you as quick as possible, or at least in a way that you can take it in and hopefully does some good for you. So, as far as this show is concerned, I appreciate you. If you're new, if you wouldn't mind, like, share, subscribe, all that business. We have donation links down below. If you can't hook it up for a brother, if you could share the links out, that helps too. And try to get some more people to come watch the show with you. Say, hey, I know this fuckhead in Chicago that does like this morning show. No, not that fuckhead, the other fuckhead. Inside joke. But I'm just seriously, we're trying to get more people to watch and hopefully, just try and get news out there, not bloviate for an hour on one topic and about something I don't know anything about, We're not trying to do that here. So we're just trying to get the word out. You want to come on here? Why, you say you can insult my forehead to my face? You fucker. When you get on, Prop gets on this show, half the show, your fucking forehead. Look, I have a receding hairline, all right? I'm 56 years old, all right? I'm lucky I got any hair at all, all right? You want to come on the after hours show, but I don't want to be on video? Yeah, you look like Andrew WK to me. I don't know if you know who that is, but you're a handsome fella, Prop. Don't be degrading yourself like that. You're good people. You look good. You look good. You're good enough. You're smart enough, and doggone it, people like you. All right, that's it for me. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Have a good weekend. The Ides of March. Beware the Ides of March. That's tomorrow, March 15th, and I think Monday is St. Patrick's Day. So don't get any Irish whiskey. It's going to cost you probably about 200% more. Piece of chicken grease. We'll see you next time. Word to your mother, because I'll see her at her house.
This is City Alpha 5! Woo!
Soon.
Thieving ass monkey.